get there for the late dinner. We stayed till 2 a.m. They had closed the restaurant at 11:30. The manager and the waiter stayed. George Burns told stories for 3 hours. It was, and my son to this day said it was the greatest evening he ever spent in show business or with anyone. Anyway, he said, talking about old age, he said this guy was so old that when he ordered a 3-minute egg, they asked for the money up front.
That's Christopher said that?
That was George Burns.
Oh.
And then,
did you say your son was there?
Yes, my son was there. Yeah. He
wow.
He was like 12 or 13.
Oh, man.
At the time.
What a great thing.
Oh, my God. Yeah, he was 13 at the time. It's a wonderful chapter in the book, by the way. Anyway, I also close with Rodney Dangerfield. And I met Rodney, the second show that I did on the Merv Griffin Show, and Rodney was making a comeback. And, you know, I remember I've quoted a lot of comics who've said brilliant things, but I never quoted their material as my own. I always credit them because the lines are so brilliant. Anyway, he was in his 40s. I think it was 44. And he had quit show business to sell aluminum siding. He did it for 10 years, and he decided to come back. Yeah. And his opening line was that I've decided to come out of retirement because I'm the only one who knew I retired. But anyway, get this great joke. He said, I'm at the age when food has taken the place of sex in my life. In fact, I just had a mirror put up over my kitchen table.
Rodney, unreal. And
it's really so wonderful.
Here, all right, anyway, we got to do 30 seconds with Rodney. Here, we just to our listeners who don't know him, hear what he was doing. We got to do this.
Smoking, that's another one. Try to stop smoking. That's a beauty, huh? Well, with cigarettes, my wife and I, we made a deal, my wife and I. We only smoke after sex. I got the same pack now since 1975. What bothers me is my wife. She's up to 3 packs a day. I tell you the truth, and my wife and I, we never have sex. Now, we get undressed. We can't stop laughing, you know.
All right, Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah, he was absolutely wonderful. Anyway, I thought one of the biggest surprises or birthday presents for me was on Tuesday was being interviewed, and Dean brought it up today, and you brought it up today, that what people are going to have to do is they're going to have to get information. They're going to have to watch RT, Russian television, and a couple of other foreign outlets like that. Anyway, about 2.5 or 3 months ago, I was contacted by Jesse and asked me to send me a couple of my DVDs of my movie, The American Media and the Second Assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Then he called a week later and asked for 2 more, so we got 4 of them. I asked if he would come on my show as a guest, so he came on, and he did an hour with me. And it was a fabulous hour because he's very colorful. Yeah. We told great stories. We had a lot in common, especially when it came to what we knew about Muhammad Ali. He's the only one that knew who Muhammad Ali's white idol was, and he was stunned that I knew and that Ali told me. Anyway, when the show ended, I said to him, you know, come next November 22nd, perhaps you might want to have me on to talk about my film. And he said to me live on the air, no, John, you must come on the show right away. We got to strike while the iron's hot and the releasing of the files and all this. So anyway, they contacted me and told me that I was going to be on in June. And I thought, oh, my God, that's fine. June is good enough for me. I don't care. Yeah. Because a lot more, and I should tell you, the movie on Amazon and Vimeo is still doing gangbusters. And it's only word of mouth because nobody, except 1 or 2 people in the assassination community, is helping spread the word about this absolute definitive film. Anyway, they called me 2 weeks ago and said, could you come on the 24th? And I said, wow, what a great birthday present. So they told me it would only be a 20 or 25-minute interview. And I thought, well, that's awfully short to talk about the movie. But
Yeah,
I would be thrilled to come on. Anyway, people in the communications business don't often communicate properly. They told me, the producer told me it would be 1 o'clock. So I presumed it was 1 o'clock my time. And they had reserved a studio here in Las Vegas. So good for me. I'm so efficient. A week beforehand, I drove to find the studio, which was about 4 miles away, and it's in the back lot somewhere. I found it. That's how I knew I could find it after that. So anyway, comes the 24th. It's 9:30 in the morning, our time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm lying in bed after taking a shower and waiting for 11:30 so I can drive to the studio at 12:30 and be on at 1 o'clock. And I get an email, and the email from the producer said, "You're on the air in 20 minutes. Are you there?" I was in bed. Well, you never saw anybody dress as fast as I did. And I hopped in the car. I got to that 4 miles in about 4 minutes, and I was looking up for cops all over the place.
Wow.
I got to sit down about 3 minutes before we started the interview. Now, what astounded me, he didn't want to talk about the movie, and he didn't want to talk about the assassination. He wanted to talk a little about Project Mockingbird, and that's fine, because I said to him, the whole movie is about Project Mockingbird in the media. That's why it is so topical, and it's founded on Jim Garrison's proven investigation, but sabotaged by the media. But what startled me now is that when he was on my show, he was verbal and lively. Is that he told his teleprompter kept breaking, and I was stunned. I said, "Well, you don't need a teleprompter." He said, "Well, it keeps breaking down." I said, "When you're our age, a lot of things keep breaking down. We can just talk." So anyway, it turned out to be only like a 12 or 14-minute interview. I have no idea how it's going to end up if it airs. But
12 minutes?
Yes, and I was staggered. And we were talking about the release of the files. And I said that, Governor, you know, having been in the military, that the intelligence agencies aren't leaving around memos that says this is how we did it. I said the two most important memos are already in the movie. The one from 1967 that says we must help Clay Shaw, otherwise Garrison's going to win. Now, that may not prove the CIA murdered John Kennedy, but it does prove that they were obstructing justice.
Sure.
And then the second most important memo was when Rust of Judgment came out, which was not published in America, but in England for only $1,500, that we must destroy these conspiracy theorists, calling them communists, etc. Again, that is obstruction of justice. So he kept saying to me, well, how, are they still operating? I said, it's worse today, much worse today. And he said, well, we know they lied, so what can we do about it? So I tried to explain to him, and I'm going to say it to you, and this is how easy it is. It is so easy. First of all, everything started with the murder of John Kennedy. That's when the deep state or London or whoever is responsible took over ownership of the United States of America and got us into every fake war. And the biggest fake war was the Cold War with Russia, because they had lost 25 million people. Peace was a threat to the military-industrial complex, which was losing its profits. Then there was Vietnam with the fake Gulf of Tonkin resolution. Then there was Iraq with the famous weapons of mass destruction.
Right.
So I said to the governor, I said, it is so easy. Thomas Jefferson says at the top of the film, a democracy cannot function without an informed public. How do you inform them? You inform them with the media. But then at the top of the movie, you have Mark Twain saying, if you don't read American newspapers, you're uninformed.
Right.
If you do, you're misinformed. So now if you're listening to anything, as Dean said at the top of the show, anything done in America, you are listening to Project Mockingbird. They are still entrenched. Now, in the 70s, you recall the Church Committee. In the movie, you see the head of the CIA admitting they have 400 assets writing the news for us. Now, that's when...
That was in the 70s, okay?
Right, when commies were a threat. But commies were never a threat. Russia was never a threat. So now that the commies have gone away, they invent phantom terrorists.
Oh, they always gotta have it.
There are no enemies of the United States. The enemies of the United States are in the United States.
That's right.
They're in Washington, D.C., for crying out loud.
Yep.
So I'll ask you this question, which I posed to him. I said the worst president in American history, of course, is Bill Clinton. He repealed Glass-Steagall, destroyed the economy. He passed NAFTA, which got our jobs out of America, which only left American boys jobs in the military where they're now paid $20,000 to join up. I said, do you recall AT&T? And I'm sure you recall AT&T. Of
course.
Remember
I remember when they broke it up. Sure.
That's right, because it was a monopoly.
Right.
And you must recall also the major motion picture studios. They owned theaters.
Right.
And the Justice Department said to them, that's a monopoly.
Shame. I didn't like that. Yeah.
I told the governor, I said, when John Kennedy was killed, a company could only own 5 stations.
In any city.
And Bill Clinton's Communications Act made it possible for 6 corporations to own 95% of our media. Now look at this. The governor, look at how popular Jesse Ventura was. He was on KNBC. He was on True Channel and a couple places like that. He did a story on KNBC about weather modification in Alaska, and they fired him. And they paid him off hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's how he built his home in Mexico. Why is it that Jesse Ventura cannot get a show in America? Why does he have to be on Russian TV? Because it's Project Mockingbird owns our media. Right. Now, you had this bright lady that you and Dean talked about in Hawaii.
Tulsi Gabbard.
All she has to do to be elected is tell the public we are going to put the fake media back in the hands of the people. When John Kennedy was killed, there were 1,500 different owners of the media.
Right.
So you got all kinds of theories and ideas, but it didn't matter. They were there. It's like the internet.
Right.
It's like a box of Cracker Jack full of nuts and corn, but there are prizes there. You were one of the prizes. There are a number of prizes there, but there's a lot of corn and there's a lot of junk there. But if you're selective, you can find it. They have to reverse the Communications Act.
Yes.
That will solve.
Oh, that'll open the door to reality like we haven't seen it since before Clinton.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Then maybe people like yourself will end up with a television show, which you deserve. And a lot of other people. I mean, look at James Corbett Goes to Japan. Mm-hmm. He has a very popular site called the Corbett Report. Mm-hmm. Maybe he could come back home to America. Max Kaiser is in Europe doing Russian TV. Maybe he could come back to America. That is the only thing that will work. And it is that easy.
Well, I hate to say it, but the monopoly that is the internet is now being used to quash all independent thought of any significance now. It's just obscene.
I'm so glad you brought up that, and I hope you have time to give me my own little birthday present. Okay, if you go to my site and you look up John Barber's open letter to Bernie Sanders, and it's only 2 or 3 minutes, and it's not taped very well. It's taped into a phone, and it's not taped. It's got 6,000 hits. If you Google John Barber's open letter to Harry Reid, It's 80,000 hits. Now, I don't put this up to have people look at it, Jeff. I just put it up to get it out of my system. People look at it fine.
I understand.
I did a really, really funny, for me, funny. I did a really, really funny parody that you and I talked about a couple of times. It's called Donald and Stormy, and it's a song parody by John Barber. If you Google it on YouTube, it will not come up.
No.
You will find about 10 other parodies, and it's called Stormy Weather, but not mine unless you Google my name. Now, what is beyond me is that it has only had about 418 views, which I find impossible to believe. I've only had one negative comment that came from my sister. And my sister said, John, it's disgusting. You were the guy that did these great documentaries about Garrison. Why would you do that? It's disgusting. I said, because it's funny, and funny is funny. My computer guru, David Lispy, is a Donald Trump fan.
Right.
I am not a Donald Trump fan. And you want to know what? His hobby of humping is of no distraction to me because it was John Kennedy's hobby, okay? And all A-type personalities and creative people.
Every movie star, it doesn't matter.
That's right. They have high sex drives.
Entertainment,
okay?
yeah.
Now, let me tell you something. His hobby and Kennedy's hobby is a whole lot better than Obama's or Eisenhower's hobby, which was golf. Golf is the weirdest game. It's 7 miles.
Yeah.
7 miles of pasture with 18 holes. You got to get a dimple ball into 18 holes over 4 hours with a crooked stick. I don't know anybody, even pros, who have a perfectly happy 4 hours on a golf course.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know anybody who's had sex in 5 minutes who wasn't thrilled. Okay, and it doesn't take the whole day. And Nixon's hobby was bowling, for crying out loud, and he was always guttering the ball. That took him 2 hours, for crying out loud.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, George Bush's hobby was learning how to speak English, which he never mastered.
No, he's still at it, yeah.
So that hobby of Donald Trump's doesn't bother me. Now, I mentioned to David, because I am not a Trump fan as a person, because Trump's book was The Art of the Deal. John Kennedy's book was Profiles in Courage. So Kennedy is interested in a man's character, and Trump is only interested in cash. I am only interested in Donald since he is in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
So in any event, are you going to play it?
I am.
Oh, thank you.
If it's your birthday.
Thank you.
All right, are you ready?
Yes, thank you.
All right, I've been holding off on this.
Okay.
Here we go. Donald and Stormy musical parody by John Barber.
He knows why there's no lust left in her guy, Stormy Daniels. And it's not just his crotch that she handles, spanks his ass all the time. It is bare in the bed and everywhere. He wants it spanked with Forbes magazine and hit harder every time, more money every time. Since he comes her way, there's no love for her at all. All he does is pay to have his sick ball. All she does is pray that she's the one with the class to lead his sorry ass.
Talking about Melania.
The plane she's on, Donald's juices are all gone. Stormy Daniels, and it's not just his crotch that she handles, spanks his ass all the time. Forbes magazine all the time.
Now, who was accompanying you there?
That's me. Now listen, I got myself a keyboard about 10 years ago when I semi-retired, and I learned to. It's just fake. I learned to play about 50 songs. That's my hobby, learning these
I
old
didn't
songs.
know that.
I'm going to tell you how smart David Lispy is. He is a Trump fan. He helped me make this. And Cynthia McKinney sent me the loveliest note. She said, John, those pictures are hilarious. How did you find them? Anyway, Jeff, first of all, I want to thank you for playing it, because you have hundreds of thousands of people around the world who could hear that they are very funny lyrics when they see the pictures that you saw.
Yeah.
Now, of course, and you can be a critic of the critic. You could tell me if you like it or you don't like it. It wouldn't hurt my feelings. My wife, who is the most proper lady I know, listens to it once a week to pick herself up. And she says, oh, honey, that's so cute. So, and anyway, I said to David, I don't understand, David. All my stuff thousands listen to it. I don't understand it. He said, if you want to make it go viral, put it on the sites that hate Trump. And I said, but I don't hate Trump. Okay, I wish him well. I know he's having a hard time, but I don't.
Of course, that's not the point.
That's not the point. Funny is funny. It's out there for
426 views. Come on, we can push that up a little higher. I think.
I mean,
our people. Donald and Stormy. Just do a search for John Barber, Donald and Stormy parody. That's all you need to do, and you'll find it. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. So anyway, your impressions of the pictures.
Well, they fit the lyrics like a glove. Gives very creative stuff. I don't know much about his alleged tendencies, being spanked. I just don't. But yeah.
Well, she said it twice. She said it under oath 3.5 months ago, and then she repeated it on 60 Minutes. She didn't mention Forbes magazine, but that's what she mentioned the first time, because his picture was on the cover.
It's vintage Barber, and then all of your fans should see it. They'll all love it. It's probably, I think it's being suppressed. That anything you do is going to be looked at by several thousand people. Now 426 doesn't work. It's too easy for YouTube to suppress the numbers, John. Come on. You got to think about it like that.
I'm convinced of that. Anyway,
I'm absolutely convinced of it.
Well, I can't tell you. First of all, I love being on your show, and thank you for having me on so often, because it's just a terrific outlet for me. And the only reason I do my own show is for the same reason I do your show. It gives me a chance to write something and speak what's on my mind.
Well, it's always, come on. Hey, the book, please. When is the book out?
Well, right now it's in the hands of the publisher. The editor's name is Michael Campbell at Skyhorse. He's 26 years of age, and what he read, he loves. Now, the bottom line is this.
He loves it. It's one of the most important books of our time on this planet in terms of entertainment, media, the truth of how it works, the people, the characters. This is a classic. You could put it in the hands of a 26-year-old kid who wasn't even born when Real People was on.
Well, the few chapters he read, he loved. And then Leno Sanek, who knows Tony Lyons, who owns Skyhorse, sent him a note saying, you should pay attention to this because it's going to be a classic, which was very nice. Now, the bottom line
We're going to self-publish it. I can see this coming.
I was just going to say that because my son 3 years ago said, Dad, it is brilliant. We'll put it on Kindle now. But, I like the idea of holding a book in my hand. I want to go to Barnes and Noble and meet people and sign a book. But even if I self-publish, I might be able to do that.
Can you try and find out if there is such a thing as a self-published book tour? I'll bet there are PR agencies who set that up.
Oh, what a great idea. Oh, my God, you're a genius.
I'll bet you anything. I'll bet you.
Yeah, you know that 50 Shades of Grey was self-published? And then, of course, it caught on so big that it became a monster hit.
Yeah.
Now, my book is not 50 Shades of Show Business.
No, but once you put it out there, some publisher's going to grab it. They're going to say, John, we want it. Don't wait for them. Don't wait for 26-year-old kids. Come on. This book has got to, and we got to do the audio version of it, and so we got to get this out. I just don't think you should mess around much more with this. You got to make it. And once you self-publish it, then they'll take note, because it'll take off like a rocket.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You know what I should have sent to you long ago? You know, when Bush invaded Iraq, I wrote the funniest song about him called his...
Do you struggle with your weight? Are you frustrated or discouraged? Think you've tried everything to lose weight? Tired of weight loss products that promise results and don't deliver? There are 12 main reasons why you struggle with excess weight and have a difficult time losing it. From overeating to hormonal imbalances, an underactive thyroid, even sleep problems, and even dieting itself. The truth is, the 12 causes of weight loss problems are all addressed by one product, Royal Velvet. You, yes you, can join the scores of Rinse listeners who have stopped the madness and no longer struggle with weight issues. Maybe you've heard them talk with Jeff about their amazing transformations on his show. Simply go to royalvelvetnow.com, click on the weight loss section, and learn the truth about the real reason obesity is a deadly epidemic that you can avoid. Then click on the Rinse icon in the upper right-hand corner, and you will be on your way to a healthier, slimmer, more youthful you. royalvelvetnow.com. Your life will never be the same.
Are you prepared for the future? Do you know how to navigate past the upcoming dangers before it's too late and seize budding opportunities before others do? Forecasting worldwide since 1980, Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal, provides timely and accurate trend forecasts that have earned him the reputation as the most trusted name in trends. The proof is in the hundreds of accurate forecasts Celente has made over the past 30 years. The 1987 stock market crash, the clean food trend, the dot-com bust. The Trends Journal alerts subscribers to early, subtle signs of crucial trends that will shape our future. It allows readers to anticipate change, recognize the implications, and take proactive strategies. Put your money where your mind is with Gerald Celente's brilliant and indispensable Trends Journal. Go to trendsjournal.com or call 845-331-3500. That's 845-331-3500. Hi, this is Jeff Rense. Royal Raymond Rife was without question the most gifted medical scientific genius of our age. He discovered that most disease-related microbes die quickly when exposed to their own specialized resonant radio frequencies. The BCX 411 Rife-type frequency instrument has received the highest praise on several continents for its precision, simplicity of operation, and successful research experiment. The BCX, with its comprehensive manual, allows you to select the frequencies you wish to experiment with for the length of time you want to run them. The BCX handheld plasma ray tubes and RF radio carrier wave, like Rife used, are the absolute state-of-the-art in Rife frequency research. For full information and pictures, take the New Earth link at the top of rense.com. Settle for nothing but the best in Rife research with the BCX 411. Again, just take the New Earth link at the top left corner of rense.com.
Dr. Joe Schneller.
The efficacy that we're looking for, that we're going to prove, is that carnivora wakes up this immune system and makes it dominate.
I highly recommend that you get started right away using carnivora because it really will help you. Just follow the directions as the company gives them to you. And I just want everybody to know that there's been no one paid to do this. I'm doing this on my own because I care about everybody and want to see healthy people.
My husband has recovered tremendously after the physician suggested that he start taking carnivora. When he was doing so well, I decided to start taking it as well, and we're both so pleased to be able to feel healthy again.
Hello, folks. Richard Ostro of Carnivora Research International here. Visit carnivora.com or call 1-866-VENUS-FLY. That's carnivora.com or 1-866-VENUS-FLY. Call us today.
Are you prepared for the future? Do you know how to navigate past the upcoming dangers before it's too late and seize budding opportunities before others do? Forecasting worldwide since 1980, Gerald Salenti, publisher of the Trends Journal, provides timely and accurate trend forecasts that have earned him the reputation as the most trusted name in trends. The proof is in the hundreds of accurate forecasts Salenti has made over the past 30 years. The 1987 stock market crash, the clean food trend, the dot-com bust. The Trends Journal alerts subscribers to early, subtle signs of crucial trends that will shape our future. It allows readers to anticipate change, recognize the implications, and take proactive strategies. Put your money where your mind is with Gerald Salenti's brilliant and indispensable Trends Journal. Go to trendsjournal.com or call 845-331-3500. That's 845-331-3500.
The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or Internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and open-minded people, wherever you live across the United States of America, across Europe, across the UK, across the world, this is David Duke. And today is my favorite day of the week, Friday, when I bring on the great Mark Collette. Before that, I want to just get you up to date on the latest news and how it applies to the things that are important to all of us. There is a headline today by Reuters, one of the biggest news aggregate or news compiling agencies in the world, which are quoted in literally tens of thousands of newspapers. And the headline reads, Bill Cosby, once beloved, America's dad, convicted of sexual assault. And the fact is that this man, Bill Cosby, who was promoted by the Zio Hollywood media as the great example, actually as proof of how great black people can be, how they are really wonderful, wonderful people, shows the disconnect, the absolute disconnect between the fake reality of entertainment programming and the real reality of entertainment programming. We know he was a serial predator of white women. He was a serial predator of white women. He slipped them drugs. He raped them. This is just amazing. And it's not a list of 10 or 20 or 30 or 40. It's hundreds. And all during this period. And a lot of people knew about this. Some of these women came forward to protest it the same way what happened with Weinstein. It was covered up because he was part of this Zio media presentation that, the races are really the same, and look how great Bill Cosby is. Of course, he played a part. He played a fictional part written by Jewish scriptwriters in his program. And in reality, he was exactly the opposite. He's anything other than what a beloved American dad would be. But he was part of that racial narrative. He was part of that racial programming of America to say there's no differences between the races, and it's really going to be great. We also had that famous film by the Jewish producer who did a movie called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? And of course, it showed a beautiful white woman, erudite, intelligent. And she falls in love with this brilliant Nobel Prize winning type black doctor. And how evil it was of anybody that wanted to preserve their heritage. It's kind of interesting, though. They don't ever portray Jews as evil SOBs. And they presented it like this is the height of racism or hate. If the family or anybody that would object to their beautiful, erudite European daughter marrying an African, marrying a black man. If anybody objected to that, then they are just the epitome of evil, yet every major Jewish organization in the world promotes. Stanley Kramer, by the way, is the Jewish guy that did that movie. Every major Jewish organization back in the world has programs to prevent Jewish intermarriage with those nasty non-Jews. And they all support the state of Israel, which has laws against it. Nuremberg is described as Nuremberg-type laws. Even one of the Supreme Court justices of Israel did that. The hypocrisy is just unbelievable, folks. The two people, when I was growing up, or actually as a young man, I would say as a teenager and then in my 20s, who was promoted most to the American people. There were two people who were promoted most to the American people as examples of how there's no differences in races and how great black people could be. One was Bill Cosby. We know now what he was doing during this period. The other was, you know who it is, O.J. Simpson. They had TV commercials where O.J. Simpson's running through the airport, you know, wearing a pair of some boots they were promoting, and all the girls, all the white girls were just running after him, chasing him down. He did movies quite a bit. One of the movies he did was Cocaine and Blue Eyes, which was a movie, he was like a police detective, and he was defending, Blue Eyes and Cocaine was the movie, and he protected and defended a blue-eyed blonde from the evil white drug dealers. I mean, where do we go from here? And now this reality TV show we live in is explained again, and this is where I want to go with Mark in this conversation. We have a new situation where people supposedly on our side. Now, I understand satirical comedy. I understand trolling sometimes. I understand some of the trolling in the Daily Stoner, for instance. But there is a serious effort in the so-called, in parts of the alt-right, not all the alt-right. I was happy to see Richard Spencer condemn this. I condemned it. But there was actually some members of the alt-right who were talking about how wonderful it is that Donald Trump is such good friends with Kanye West. I think that's the right way to pronounce it. I really don't want to pronounce anything about him, these fake names anyway, these fancy names they give people. Kanye West is the biggest dredge, the biggest creep you ever saw. He does videos with severed white women's heads. He does videos, all right, in bed with dead white women in sexual poses. One time one of the women has on nothing but scanty underwear, and she's actually using her hands to reveal her private areas. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that they do. He's part of the whole Kardashian insanity. And to think the United States president, our president, is supposed to be he's supposed to be our guy, right? He's supposed to be the guy of white America, the voice of white America, would praise Kanye West. You know, this absolute degenerate, right? It's just beyond human belief. And also his son, the president of the United States' son, actually did a tweet where he praised Kim Kardashian. Now, the Kardashians, the whole program was promoted by this Jew by the name of Gilstein. And the Kardashians have come in and infected and corrupted and destroyed the values of millions upon millions of pubescent, young American girls who thought, and the Kardashians are famous for dating only black men, how black men are superior, and drugs and sexual degeneracy, and a father who's getting breast implants, who is an athlete, the Bruce Jenner who becomes Caitlyn and presented by the media. By the way, she was first promoted by Leibowitz. I mean, we can just go on and on about that. The whole Kardashians thing was an entirely Jewish production. Mr. Gilstein, again, was the guy behind it. It's just incredibly amazing that we've got so-called, a few, not all, thank God, some alt-righters talking about how great this is, man, that this great black man came out and supported Donald Trump. That's really an infection of our cause. It's not really a promotion of what we need. And the idea that Donald Trump would promote this guy or promote the Kardashians or the son of the president, we live in a sick, vile reality TV show. And the only way we can fight this, folks, is we have to stand up like that proverbial young man in the great mythology, the great fable of the emperor's got no clothes. We have to stand up wherever this kind of crap shows its ugly, stinking head and say, look, the emperor's got no clothes. Kanye West is no hero. You know, the Kardashians are everything that's wrong with our society, and they are the epitome of the expression of this Zio control of media, the Zio control of our culture, the Zio control of it. And when we say positive things about any of these people, or we celebrate this, like, boy, this is really great that we have Kanye West supporting us, that is exactly
Dr. Duke?
the no surrender. Yes.
Oh, maybe it was on my side. I'm sorry. I thought we lost.
So anyway,
he disappeared for a second.
So yeah. So you know, we you know, there are some points where we cannot do this virtual signaling anymore. So Mark, I'm going to bring you on right away. And I mean, this whole process it just shows not only the sickness of this society we live in and the media we live in, which makes such a big deal of all this, right? It really shows the things that causes our own movement to lose and lose and lose because we don't. The first thing we got to do is cleanse ourselves. The first thing we've got to do is understand what we're for and what we're against. And when we praise people, this idiots like Kanye West or the Kardashians, we're totally counter-signaling improperly to all of our people, not only in America, but all over the world. What do you think?
Well, firstly, I want to touch on something. It might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but when I saw the Bill Cosby news, initially when I saw that he was being investigated and accused of all these things, I was actually quite disappointed because I remember seeing quite a while ago Bill Cosby giving a speech at I think it was a Black Awards ceremony. It was some ceremony for black people. And he actually stood up and said that it was time that blacks stopped blaming white people for all their problems. He stood up and said it's time blacks took their destiny in their own hands and stopped passing off every single problem that faced them as some kind of oppression. And he actually went out on a limb and said things that were unpopular amongst many black celebrities because he wasn't one of the black celebrities who constantly said, oh, it's all whitey, it's systemic racism, we're being held back. He actually said that the black community held itself back by its own sort of behaviour, really, by the fact that black men weren't taking on their roles as father figures, that black women weren't doing a good enough job as mothers. And he was pointing out that the black community could have done a lot more to pull itself up by its bootstraps. And rather than sitting complaining about white people constantly, they could have helped themselves far more by looking more inwardly at their own actions, such as black on black gun crime, and started helping themselves. So although obviously I acknowledge what horrendous crimes he has carried out and that he was a predator and this was covered up for a long time, as it has been with many other celebrities, especially those in Hollywood circles, I do find it slightly irritating because he was someone that had previously made a lot of sense on racial issues and wasn't one of the black celebrities who constantly blames white people and this mythical systematic or systemic oppression for everything that goes wrong in the black community when 90% of problems in the black community are down to the black community and nothing to do with whites. And as we already know, they get far more in handouts and legs up than any other community in America. But on to the issue of Kanye West.
Let me go back with the Cosby thing for a second, and I think that was very fine analysis there. But I'd like to point something out to you in the audience, too, okay, that I almost think this is almost like controlled opposition, too, because the fact that he defended the family, the fact that he also said that black people had to talk correctly and get a job and do all those things, right? And of course, the psychological investigation or psychological delving into personality that's a labyrinth, I think. But isn't it interesting that he's exactly the kind of guy that the alt-right would say, you see, look at these black people. Here's a black guy who is really understanding about the fact that blacks have to talk right, and he's so wonderful. He's the kind of guy that would speak at conservative meetings, which he did, and people get tears in their eyes, proving that, oh yeah, see, everything's fine. Race doesn't really exist. Look what black people can do. But at the same time, he was raping and drugging white women by the score. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of white women, raping them whenever he got the chance, right? But he was the example given, to, first of all, on this TV show, is the example of the great father, the great, black man. And he was given to the conservatives as, you see there, folks, this is great. This is virtue signaling. At the same time, he was a predator to whites. Was he saying these things because he was trying to ingratiate himself with the whites so he'd get more access to white women? Who knows? I mean, the psychological probe of this thing would be amazing. But think about that for a second. And we see this repeatedly. The same thing was true of O.J. Simpson, the great black guy, right? I mean, it's like the thing about Cosby. He'd go to a black event, and he would tell the blacks to get their stuff together. Okay, fine. But he was also promoted, and that's not a bad thing, but he promoted this, and he was used as an example of the conservative right that really, there's no race issue, and race is not a factor. And you see, we can turn black people into good conservatives. That's all we got to do. We just can turn, it doesn't matter if the demographics of this country change and the Mexican immigration continues and the non-white immigration continues. We're a minority in the country. We can convince them to all be good conservatives like Bill Cosby. Your thoughts on that?
I certainly see that point of view, and I definitely see that he would be wheeled out by these conservatives like they're wheeling out Kanye West right now, which in itself is a joke, and I'll go back to that in a minute. But I do maintain that I think that blacks who actually want blacks to take their destiny in their own hands are very, very useful to us as ethno-nationalists, because we want an ethno-state, and blacks that want to solve black problems, live around blacks, and do right by other blacks, and take their entire racial group forward as one. That is more in line with our belief system, and I think that rhetoric can be useful to us. However, we obviously know he was lying quite profusely, because what he was saying in public wasn't what he was doing behind closed doors. But I think there is, as you so rightly said, this horrible sort of trait of these conservatives to basically hold up any black or ethnic minority or homosexual or basically any sort of white degenerate who endorses them in any way as almost a hero of the conservative movement. I don't know if you saw, but there's a guy, it's something Rubin, he's a Jew obviously, and he holds a show called The Rubin Report. And on this show, he had a discussion on conservatism. And on one hand, he had a black female discussing the future of conservatism with a white male to female transgender called Blair White. So in the middle you have this Jew who's like, tell us about the future of conservatism. And to his left there's a black female, and to the right there's a white male dressed up as a white female with a boob job but shoulders like a linebacker. And you're looking at this and thinking, how are conservatives tolerating this? This panel 10 or 15 years ago would have been the most far-left panel in the whole of America. Now it's the future of conservatism. So I completely see where you're coming from there. And this Kanye West thing, it's not only an embarrassment for conservatives, but it's also an embarrassment for Trump, because Kanye West, let's strike out the severed heads. Let's strike out the lying on a bed with a white
dead
woman
women, dead white women.
Let's strike all of that out. Let's pretend that isn't there. And
Okay.
let's just look at his family life and the way he lives his life. Him and the Kardashians are essentially a circus soap opera. They are a disgusting pastiche of life. They embody more or less every disgusting and sickening trait, attention seeking, unbelievable wanton lust for money, going on social media, releasing sex tapes of themselves to the media for a little bit of attention and a few more shekels. These people are revolting. And that Kim Kardashian, like, I'm a lover of women. I love a nice looking woman. And I've got to say, if I have one weakness, it's a nice-looking woman who might not be wearing many clothes. But that woman is absolutely foul. I mean, she needs to put her clothes back on. These women, and I despise this woman because she's pushing this horrific thing that women should have these big fake bottoms that appeal to black men. And she's got this giant, ugly behind, covered in cellulite. She's waddling around, not wearing any underwear, gagging for attention. Kanye West, he's in tow. He's out of shape now as well. I mean, I don't know if you saw him in all this coverage. I mean, he's got a pair of man boobs now. I mean, this is just a circus. Their extended family is that transvestite, Bruce Jenner. I mean,
maybe he'll change his name to Kanyetta. Or something.
I mean, the whole thing is,
and then he'll break up with Kim Kardashian, and he'll start having an affair with Mr. Caitlyn.
Well, at least he won't need to go for the fake boobs because he seems to have developed his own man breath and put on a load of weight. He's absolutely foul. But the sad thing is, this is the circus. The conservatives are wetting their pants with excitement.
Even some of the alt-right, I mean, I got to say it, and I'm just shocked by it. I don't care whether they call it trolling or whatever. I mean, they were getting all excited. I mean, I noticed because I saw the Twitter and I saw the Twitter feeds, and one of my friends pointed this out and started showing me what some of the quote alt-right, and certainly all the alt-right just thought it was just great. The president's son tweeted about Kim Kardashian, quote, I'm with her, This is the same woman who became famous and was presented as a celebrity and a star by the Jewish media, right? For making a porn tape, a sex tape, a pornography tape with a black man sexually. Total, this is somebody that the alt-right's going to get excited about. Oh, isn't this great, man? Kim Kardashian's backing up Trump. Oh, man, this is the greatest thing ever happened. I mean, my goodness. I mean, what is the matter? No wonder the movement has had so much trouble over the years. At some point, we got to get to basics. We got to get to the real things that are important here. And this is not a reality TV show. It's just like we were talking about Bill Cosby. In the 1980s, he had the #1 show to promote a mythological stereotype of this high-functioning black family, right? Which, of course, would be the norm if it weren't for that terrible thing called white racism. They'd all be that way, even though in every country of the world, whether it's countries they've controlled for many generations now, all throughout the Caribbean, all throughout Africa, the normal nuclear family is not the norm in any of these black countries around the world. The only places that you have that are some places in northern Africa, north of the Sahara, really, where you have these Muslim societies where they practice a very strict Muslim religion that keeps men and women apart, and they can still have 3 or 4 wives, which helps deal with that, that sex drive that blacks have. But that's the only place where you have a degree of a nuclear family. In the rest of the world where blacks are without that hardcore autocratic Muslim religion, they have no real, it's just classic that blacks are going to have massive polygamous relationships, a la, Bill Cosby.
Well, I think the person who summed this up best, I saw Richard Spencer tweet about this actually, and I'll read the tweet now because it's an excellent summation of what we've been saying and really hits the nail on the head. He said, "What the Kanye nonsense ultimately proves is something that I've been saying my entire career. American conservatism is the immediate enemy and must be destroyed. The left will always be there. The false, weak opposition is what is preventing a true paradigm change. And I think that sums it up perfectly. The fact that American conservatives are desperate to associate themselves with this freak show circus family to use as a kind of shield and say, look, we're progressive too. Why on earth would any conservative want to ally themselves with quote-unquote progressives? It's these progressives, it's these freaks, it's these essentially utter, ultimate degenerates that are ruining our society. And the thing that annoys me the most with Kim Kardashian is she's influencing millions of young white girls to behave like sluts, to behave in a completely materialistic and soulless way. And she's drumming into our young girls that the way you get attention is by dressing like a whore, acting like a whore, releasing sex tapes to the press, because I'm convinced she released that herself for her own publicity. It was a publicity stunt. That's what put her on the map. She did this to get her name in the media.
Yeah, and the Jewish media made a celebrity out of that.
Of course they did. And this is what's going into young girls' heads. Now, any genuine conservative, anyone who wanted to conserve Western society, to conserve traditional values, would want people like the Kardashians completely out of public view. They wouldn't want their sons and daughters looking at this freak show and taking anything from them, because these are the people who are putting the false morals, the misleading moral compass out there, and that's what's driving our younger generations to complete and utter ruin. Because instead of settling down, instead of having a family, instead of acting modestly, instead of acting in a traditional manner, these people are out trying to ape these complete and utter misfits. The saddest thing about Kim Kardashian is when those people broke into her flat in Paris, they didn't chuck her off the roof before they made away with her jewellery, because they'd have been doing humanity a large favour.
Yeah, and our president, I just can't believe our president and his family celebrating Kim Kardashian, America's favorite slut, and this is the guy that's going to be defending our people. It's almost like we are living in a reality TV show, aren't we, in this world today? And even things like the Syria, they have a video which again, videos can make anything look like anything. They can make sleeping babies look like they're dead. They can have a baby in the hospital for oxygen, which is normal in any hospital, any incubator, for instance, and they can say these are victims of gas. They can have kids who don't even look like they don't have any puffy eyes or any sort of gas. They can spray them down with hoses. Of course, a little shocked by the cold water. They spray them down with hoses and said that they've suffered a chemical attack, and this is the basis that we attack a country. Or like, for instance, Trump's first attack. We live in a society that doesn't really deal with fact. We have the Jewish establishment has so long been understood the fact that it doesn't have to be true. All they have to do is make people think that it's true, that the perception is more important than the reality. The perception of Ivanka Trump that, these poor kids were killed in Syria was supposedly what Trump bombed them in the first place. And this is the reality of our lives today, that the media is it is completely, as Trump says, fake news media. We got to thank him for that. But there you go. Go forward. What other comments do you have, my friend?
No, I was going to say, it just seems that Donald Trump now, it's like, with him, it's like riding a roller coaster, isn't it? In some ways, he's been very, very good for our movement. He's been very good for waking up white people. He's brought us back together as a group in many ways. He sort of awakened this idea that if whites acted as a community again, we could actually get people elected and get the right people elected. But saying all that, after this Syria incident, after he blatantly broke one of what I felt was one of his key promises, which was to be anti-war, and now with this latest circus and sort of sucking up to these vacuous celebrities, and we're still not any further along with the wall or any of really the key things that people voted for Trump on. It is like riding a roller coaster, but do you actually see him delivering on anything in the end? Or do you think by the end of Trump's first term, we will pretty much be where we were beforehand?
Well, again, I've got to say on balance, there's no question that it was a good thing Trump got elected over Hillary Clinton, because she would have probably already legalized all the illegal aliens. And the fact that the courts have prevented some of Trump's immigration initiatives is proof again of the power of this Zio deep state that's going on. And we got to understand. I mean, how can it be that by executive order, Barack Obama can legalize these DACA people, millions and millions of illegal aliens in this country? And a lot of people question that constitutionally he had no right to do that. But Trump basically reversing the order of President Obama, that was somehow illegal and unconstitutional in the courts. We have this incredible, Thomas Jefferson was so right that he said the biggest flaw in the American system and the American Constitution was making a few unelected judges who serve for life, a tiny number of people being able to declare any law unconstitutional or control basically the government through these courts. And that is the flaw. That is the one great flaw of the Constitution of the United States, is the power that they have of these judges. Donald Trump, though, the best thing that he did for us was he identified the media as the enemy, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN. He absolutely talked about America first, so he initiated the idea of America first to a lot of people to fight for it. He definitely promoted nationalism in every respect, right? So he did that. He did so many things like that. He really called out the media, and that's why they hate him. And the Jewish left hates him, and the Jewish right hates him. And it just knowing that fact is probably the most positive thing about him. But now he's a hostage president, and he's struggling to survive. And the only thing he can do is appeal to these powerful Jewish controllers of our society, the deep state, and try to please them somehow by our policies in the Middle East. One more thing, Mark, I'd like to get your comments on is Syria, Russia. They presented evidence, witnesses of the staged gas attack. They even showed at the OPCW, right, which is the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. That's the formal organization set up by the UN, including America, France, and UK, and all these other countries. And they actually produced kids that were on the videos and their parents, right? And they went before this organization and they said, okay, these white helmets and these ISIS type people, they grabbed the children and they grabbed their kids against their will, which were not damaged at all, just grabbed them, brought them to the hospital and started showering them with water hoses. Again, now it's played out in war, bombings, and international level. We have a fake reality TV show, irreality TV show, that's basically deciding whether we go to war or don't go to war. It's deciding foreign policy. It's deciding critical issues, war or peace, even between the great powers of Russia and America. And there's nothing more destructive to the European people than a possible war between Russia and the United States. And, of course, we know why they hate Russia, and that's the last thing. Why don't you go ahead and comment on this, and then I want to talk about the relationship between what's going on with the Kardashians and Conway West and the Zio Hollywood media and Russia. We'll talk about that in a minute. But why don't you talk about the gas attack and the latest news about that you know of?
Well, the most interesting news I've seen on this, and this has been developing over the last couple of weeks, is a number of journalists who have been on the ground there claimed that the way it was staged and put on was that during routine bombings of the area, it throws up a lot of dust into the air. Now, these large dust clouds, obviously, they get in your eyes, they make you choke, but it certainly isn't gas in the form of what Trump or Theresa May have said is gas. It's not a chemical gas, it's simply dust. These places have been repeatedly bombed, there's been fierce fighting around them, and because of that there's huge amounts of rubble and debris and the buildings are all in ruins. And because of this you get this awful high amount of concrete dust lying on the ground. So if there are bombing raids or if there are sort of artillery strikes, it throws up a huge amount of this dust into the air. And what you can actually see in these pictures, and that's why everyone looks so dusty in these pictures, is because it's just huge amounts of concrete dust going up into the air when it's essentially disturbed through bombings or artillery strikes. Now, what's happened here is a number of these journalists who have been saying this and have come out and testified to this actually being the cause of all being silenced, they've been mocked, they've been ridiculed, they've been pushed to one side. But all evidence suggests that was exactly what the case was, that after a routine bombing strike against militants, and when we say militants, we're talking about people who are serving ISIS, people who are fighting for Al-Qaeda under the name Al-Nusra Front. This dust was thrown up into the air. Sadly, it did get all over people. People were coughing, people were choking, they needed water, and obviously it gets in their eyes, which makes their eyes stream. But it certainly wasn't sarin, it certainly wasn't any form of mustard gas, and what's happened here is the Western media and Western governments, and obviously Israel as well, because let's never forget, the meddlers are always meddling, especially in the Syrian conflict. They have used this and they have twisted it and they have made it look like something it wasn't. And I believe the reason they were so quick to launch their strike against Syria is because they wanted to do so before any actual solid evidence had been presented to either the UN or any other international body which would have exposed just what we're discussing now.
Yeah, because of course they did. Because if people hear 1,000 times on media, or say the average person, through radio news, television news, comments of politicians, comments of newsreels, comments on talk shows, if they hear 1,000 times that Syria used poison gas, that indelibly makes an associative conditioning in the mind, and people come to believe this is true. You hear something enough, and it's true to people. So that's exactly right. And what's interesting is they actually brought some of the kids who were in these videos. They tracked them down. They found their families, their fathers and mothers, of the kids in the videos, right? And they let the kids go. This is going to Europe, right? Going before these commissions, right? Totally freely. And the fathers said, hey, they grabbed my kids, right? They grabbed my kids, which were fine. There were no problems, no issues. They take them into this hospital and they stop throwing water all over them, right? And they even have the kids in there that were in the videos, right? The very kids, you can see them on the videos. It's the same kid, right? And he's a victim of poison gas, and the father and the kids, even the kids were testifying, and they said, I mean, poison gas. They came and grabbed me off the street, they threw me in this thing, and then they poured thing on, and they put this video out. I guess they thought they would never be able to track them down, and they could, the actual kids that were involved or the parents. But they did, they came forward because they were so incensed by all these lies. This is how they manufacture wars. This is how they manufacture this kind of insanity.
Well, also, one of the most notable things about the case and any other of these fake gassing cases, if indeed you were exposed to sarin gas or mustard gas or something like that, people wouldn't just be running up to you with bottles of heavy water and pouring it into your eyes. It has been a sarin gas attack, and people need actually hosing down. You send in people in hazmat suits. You can't just walk in there in flip-flops and a T-shirt with a couple of bottles of, water and start pouring it on people's heads. There are a whole kind of protocols that have to be followed. But the fact is, every time they do something like this, every time it involves children, every time they have one of the pictures of a dusty, bleary-eyed child having water poured over their head, again, it's emotional blackmail for people who don't understand just how sneaky our masters are and just don't understand about the realities of chemical warfare. And if you look at those who really are killing children, those who really are abusing human rights, it's the state of Israel. If you look at who is killing the most children year on year, it's always Israel. They shoot children for protesting. It wasn't that long ago they ran bombing raids on a beach where Palestinian children were playing football. Now, I didn't see the US launching any missile strikes over that.
No, of course not.
Also, I really hate this absolutely stupid term of weapon of mass destruction, as if some weapons are sort of extra naughty. Well, believe me, if you're launching missiles at children on a beach, is that not against their human rights?
Of course.
Is that missile not a weapon of mass destruction when children are being blown limb from limb? There's all these horrific double standards, and they're always practiced by the media, and we know who runs the media.
This is ultimate evil, isn't it, Mark?
It is.
I mean, it's ultimate evil because we know that our allies, the Saudis, which is a radical jihadist Sharia law state that literally behead people.
Wahhabists who pump all that
right. We know they invaded
in the West.
We know they invaded Syria by the tens of thousands, right? They beheaded nuns. They beheaded priests. They beheaded ministers. They beheaded any moderate Muslims, right? And so we know this is a fact. They created this war. Even the New York Times, even Tom Friedman, the New York Times admits this, and he praises this because we got to get rid of this terrible Syrian regime. So they create this war, which takes 500,000 lives. That's the latest figures it looks like that this war has taken, including at least 50, 60,000 children because this country has been invaded by radical jihadists. ISIS controlled most of the country, right? What's the other one? It's Al-Qaeda, which is called Al-Nusra. It's the same organization, same Al-Qaeda that did the attacks in America, the same ISIS and Al-Qaeda that did terrorism all over the world. So here we are demonizing the country that has fought Al-Qaeda, fought ISIS, and Israel has supported directly ISIS and Al-Qaeda. That's supposed to be America's longest-standing ally. The whole thing, again, is like the insanity of a reality TV show. So they create this war. They want this war to keep going. Assad has basically won the war. They're just cleaning up right now, but they want to keep it going. So they want to make an American base. They want to promote more revolutionary, keep this war going because Israel knows that if the war stays going, then Syria will not have economic strength. They won't have good strength for their population. They won't be able to resist Jewish power or the Jewish takeover and the annexation of the Golan Heights, which, by the way, the entire United Nations and the entire United Nations Security Council, including the United States, including Britain, and including France, all voted that Israel must vacate the Golan Heights, that this was an illegal grab of this other people's country, part of their country, and they had to vacate. But, of course, there's no sanctions against Israel. They suppress the people there. They're giving the people out. This is the reality of the TV reality show that we call international politics today under the auspices of the international, global Jewish-dominated media.
Well, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, and that's the problem. We have a complete double standard. We have a system which is run by people who are in the pay of agents of Israel, who are in the pay of the internationalists. Those people are looked after, they are promoted, they are bolstered by a media which is in the pay of the same group of people. That media feeds constant propaganda to the populace, and then that populace is forced, come election time, into voting for one or two choices which essentially represent the same thing. I mean, here we have in the UK a Labour Party that took us to war in Iraq, and now we have a Conservative Party that's taking us to war in Syria. And you look at it and think, it doesn't really matter which one we vote for. It doesn't matter because they're two sides of the same shekel.
Zionist state.
Exactly.
The same shekel. I love it.
And we're basically trapped in this endless sort of, ballet of voting for, Punch and Judy. But really, there's a guy behind the curtain who's controlling both of them. And it's the same pair of hands controlling both of them. It's absolutely horrendous. And we're coming up to another round of elections here in the UK, and it'll be the same back and forth. And it's about time that we had enough. And this is why we need people like Dr. David Duke, people like Paul Nealon, people who will actually go out there and not just sit on the internet, not just sit on radio shows, but will be brave enough to stand these elections and challenge these crooked politicians. And I'm going to say something that's quite bold here. It doesn't matter if you take them on and you don't win. What matters is taking a stand. Because people often say to me, well, you've got no chance of winning, you're never going to win. Well, firstly, you'll never know unless you try. But secondly, what other options are there? There are no other options but to fight. And even if you think you are going to be doomed and you can't win, well, it's better to fight and try than it is to roll over and play dead and let these people just advance completely unopposed, because that's what they want. And even if we are just a small spanner in the works for them, well, it's better that we disrupt them as much as we can, because we're the only ones fighting, not just for the future of the Western world, but for genuine world peace.
Absolutely. We are. We are the peacemakers. We are the human rights advocates. And just like the Syrian war, we have these Zionists support Saudi Arabia, and with Saudi Arabia, with American money, supporting the rise of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, which ends up killing a lot of people in Europe too, causing the mass invasion of Europe, and every major Jewish organization around the world was supporting these refugees and saying that we should open the gates. And at the same time, the media constantly tells white people that if we want to preserve our heritage, that we're just terrible racists. While they in Israel have a very strict immigration law and don't let any refugees in. And yet the same media that loves Israel hates Europeans and want to preserve their heritage. By the way, there was a interesting story in the media about this. Apparently, there's a serial beheader going on, across Texas and across part of the South. They're beheading women. And I was wondering, is this a copycat murderer from the the Kanye West videos where he shows him holding a woman's severed head by her hair, a white woman, and shows dead white women in his bed and so forth? Is this a copycat beheader? Good question, isn't it?
Well, he sounds a little bit like the Black Ted Bundy, doesn't he? Corpses in his bed and severed heads in his hand. You think about these people, and they'll call that kind of nonsense art, won't they? They'll say it's just art. Well, I always say that art has to be two things. Number one, it has to be something of beauty, and severed heads aren't a thing of beauty. And number two, art has to be something that can only be created and mastered by the few. If everyone can do it, it's not really art. I know everyone loves their child's sort of first ever sort of Play-Doh model, but it's not high art, is it? High art is something like the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel or the Mona Lisa. But to call Kanye West's sort of output of severed heads and corpses lying in bed art really is it? Yeah, and always white women. It is a real stretch of the imagination and abuse of the English language, if you ask me.
Yeah, and one last thing, isn't it interesting when people often they don't understand exactly why we're being so anti-Russian. They portray the Russians as so horrible and everything. Well, isn't it interesting that the same society that promotes the Kardashians, promotes Caitlyn, Mr. Caitlin or whatever his name is, that promotes every sort of degeneracy, destructiveness, that makes this porn queen Kardashian with her black husband, that's the top of society. Everything she does has to be covered. We have to put their bad project in their sick family for it. In the bedrooms of our young daughters and young boys across America, but millions. That is the same people that hate Russia. So why do they hate Russia? Well, might it be because Russia passed a law that said they don't want promotion of homosexual propaganda to our young kids? Maybe because they passed a law like that, because they promote securing their borders against massive immigration of non-Russian people into their country? Could it be because they actually stand up for their own nation? Because Russia's building tens of thousands of new Christian churches in the country? I've
got another point, David. Let me just to cut in there. I've just seen that maybe they hate them because of Russia Today, who've just reported, just as we were talking about it, that just now another Palestinian protester has been shot dead by an Israeli sniper. Maybe it's because Russia doesn't hold back on telling the truth.
Well, that's right. And it's just amazing to look at it. And look, I want to thank you so much for being on every Friday. This has been a really great show.
Thank you for having me on. And to everyone who listens regularly, David is going to be our special guest for the 50th episode of my show this week on the alt-right. It will not be next Wednesday, but the week after. So for show 50, for the big one, David will be our special guest. I hope you'll all join us for that.
Thanks, Mark, for being with me. And I want to remind people as well, we have a huge resource at davidduke.com. You can't forget that one, davidduke.com. We have articles. We have copies of headlines that are pertinent to your understanding of the world. We have incredible numbers of shows and podcasts. In fact, we're going to put a podcast up from an interview that they did with me on TRS, where I go into all sorts of areas. We talk about not just a Syria question, but we talk about race. We talk about the realities of that. We talk about evolutionary theory. We talk about the purpose of the universe. I mean, we delve into a lot of issues I've never really talked about publicly in any interview program. I think you'll find it fascinating. We're going to be putting that up in the next few hours. davidduke.com is a great resource. This program is a great resource, and so all of you will utilize it, share it with your friends, and please take a time, whether you're listening to this live or on archive over the weekend. This is our most archived and listened to show of the week, which is our Friday show. Please go to davidduke.com and make a contribution, make a gift toward this work, because we need your support to do what we're doing. The Jewish establishment's trying to squeeze us and destroy us in terms of our finances. So we cannot afford to do what we're doing. We need your help, and we need it now. Love you. Thanks again to Mark Collette, and we'll be back again with you on Monday. Take care.
Completely. Visit Numana.com and see what you've been missing. That's Numana, Numana.com. Numana.com.
You're listening to the Rense Radio Network, nationwide and worldwide on the net and at rense.com. Oxygen. It's nature's oldest therapy and plays an essential role in destroying viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, and fungus, and keeping the human body healthy and strong. Now, you can give your body and your immune system a mega boost of disease-fighting oxygen with all-natural Oxy-C. With so many people now leading a sedentary indoor lifestyle, most are in a chronic state of oxygen deprivation, which sets up a perfect environment for disease, general fatigue.
Are you prepared for the future? Do you know how to navigate past the upcoming dangers before it's too late and seize budding opportunities before others do? Forecasting worldwide since 1980, Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal, provides timely and accurate trend forecasts that have earned him the reputation as the most trusted name in trends. The proof is in the hundreds of accurate forecasts Celente has made over the past 30 years. The 1987 stock market crash, the clean food trend, the bust. The Trends Journal alerts subscribers to early, subtle signs of crucial trends that will shape our future. It allows readers to anticipate change, recognize the implications, and take proactive strategies. Put your money where your mind is with Gerald Celente's brilliant and indispensable Trends Journal. Go to trendsjournal.com or call 845-331-3500. That's 845-331-3500.
The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or Internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
Welcome to the worldwide broadcast of the Ted and Austin Broer Show, bringing you the latest world news and health research. It is a beautiful Friday down here in Sunshine, Florida. Hope the rest of our listeners are having an awesome day today. And how are you doing today, Dad?
Oh, I'm absolutely blessed, Austin, shaking together, running over. You know, just the fact that I get to be on the show with you every day and get to talk to all of our friends on the show, it's just a blessing to me. This is like a giant Facebook account that has a bunch of listeners. It's just, yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Like, everybody puts their stuff on Facebook. We put it on the Ted and Austin Broer Show, and it goes all over the world, so it's a blast. And guys, thank you. We've got so much feedback this week from Wednesday's show and Thursday's show. It means so much to us when you write us and tell us how much you enjoy the shows. And I got today, if you're on my personal email list, you got a picture today. And it says, it's this person who's like in torment holding their temples, and it says, "You aren't sick, you're being poisoned." I'm going to repeat that. It says, "You aren't sick, you're being poisoned." And it's got a big picture of MSG, Prozac, aspartame, Zoloft, Xanax, all of this stuff, the medicines that you're taking. It's saying you're not sick, you're just being poisoned. And the poison that you're getting is requiring you to take larger and larger and larger amounts of medicine because you're being poisoned by the other medicine. Because remember, these side effects are pretty bad. And some of these things have real high toxicity levels, especially to the liver, like Tylenol. Tylenol is a poison. You should never, ever put that in your body. So just stay away from certain foods and certain drugs. I mean, if you have to do something like that, use an aspirin. But guys, be careful with this aspirin every single day. Does baby aspirin, that kind of stuff, they tell you to thin your blood. The reason they're giving you that is to thin your blood so you don't have as much plaque development. The problem with that is that it's such a good blood thinner that it can actually cause wet macular degeneration and make your eyes start going fuzzy on you. I've seen that over and over and over again. You'd be better off to take cod liver oil and vitamin E every day if you want to keep the blood thin. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the Cosby verdict. Now, Bill Cosby, I met him in Philadelphia, and I've told this story before. It was a couple of years ago in little detail, but I'm going to kind of go into it a little bit right now because he's been found guilty now. He's been found guilty of sexual assault, and he's probably going to be in jail for 20 or 30 years. He's 80 years old. To me, I would be shocked if he didn't flee the country. In fact, the prosecutor wanted him locked up immediately yesterday. They did not do that. They're going to let him stay out until sentencing. And quite frankly, I think that he will probably leave the country. I mean, he's got too much money. He's got hundreds of millions of dollars. He's been found guilty in sexual assault trial, and he basically lashes out at the DA, started calling him names and all kinds of other things because he's angry because his celebrity didn't allow him not to be put in jail. Now, the thing that's crazy about this is they're thanking the woman now who brought this up, saying that this serial rapist needs to be taken off the street. Where, of course, I doubt he's still a serial rapist at the age of 80 or whatever he is. But the sad part about there's a certain point where that kind of stuff. Are you laughing at me, Austin?
Yeah.
But the Montgomery County jury on Thursday found Bill Cosby guilty of drugging and assaulting Andrea Constand. I looked her up. She's not even pretty. Just forget that. A verdict that delivered the first celebrity conviction of the Me Too era, and a likely final blow of a career-ending scandal fueled by dozens of women who accused the entertainer of being a sexual predator. The decision, after 14 hours of jury deliberations and a second trial on the charges, stirred audible sobs of relief from some of the accusers in the packed Norristown courtroom. Now, guys, this is just the beginning of this. He'll be back in court over and over and over again now on civil charges, until they strip him of his wealth while he's in prison, if he doesn't flee the country, or if he doesn't suddenly get suicided or he commits suicide or whatever. I don't know. But I'm going to talk to you about this for just a second, take about 3 minutes of the show. Back in the 90s, he was a huge name, and they brought him in to speak for us at the Success Seminar. They paid him $100,000. I know it's hard for you guys to believe, for a 30-minute speech. And I'll never forget, he was so angry because what he did, they were supposed to pick him up at the train track in Philadelphia. He was going to take a train, believe it or not. They were sending a limo to his house to pick him up and take him to the seminar. He didn't want a limo coming into the neighborhood for who knows what reason. It's so weird. And he took a public transportation train into the city of Philadelphia. Now, you can imagine that. This is 20 years ago, Bill Cosby. He's a huge star 20 years ago. I mean, he's like 60 years old. He's huge. So what happens is the lady, her name was Lori, who was in the pickup. She was the liaison to the speakers. And she ended up getting the wrong track and not finding him and then trying to look for him and texting him. He got in the car and he was so angry. He told Lori, he said, and Lori's about 6 months pregnant. He started cussing and he looked at her and he said, "You don't want your newborn baby to hear the language that I'm fixing to spew you. You need to get out of the car. You can walk or you can take a taxi to the seminar, but you're going to hear what I'm fixing to say or you can get out, and I don't care that you're pregnant." This is what he did to her. I mean, that's what he said. That's how big of a scumbucket this guy is. And I'll never forget, he was so angry when he got to the doggone seminar. He was just mad because, he's Bill Cosby. And I remember they had us in the ready room, and they had a separate ready room. All the speakers had a ready room, and Bill Cosby had his own ready room right next to the speakers' ready room. And I'll never forget, I walked in there, and he was in our ready room. He wasn't in his own little private cell, little cubicle they had given him, which was probably a 15 by 15 room with curtains around it. Just was filled with all kinds of food. And he was in that big room with us. And I remember I have a metal briefcase, and I basically got it out, and I had my 35 millimeter camera with me. I thought, well, shoot, this guy's Bill Cosby. I'm gonna get a picture with Bill Cosby. And so I opened up the briefcase and I pulled my camera out, and he looked at me. He goes, "What do you think you're going to do?" Now remember, he's already been introduced to me as a fellow speaker. I'm like following him at the seminar. So he goes, I pull my camera out of the briefcase, and he goes, "What do you think you're going to do with that camera?" And I looked at him and I said, "Mr. Cosby, I've been a fan of yours like forever." And I said, "You're in such a pissy pants mood today." I said, "I was going to have a picture taken with you, but obviously you don't want any pictures taken. And obviously you want to be in a bad mood, and you're going to allow the pickup that happened, the mess up with the pickup, to affect you all day. So I'm good. I'm just going to put my camera away." And he looked at me, and I'll never forget this. I was the first person that day who stood up to him, and he started laughing at me, like joking, like, wow, okay, you're giving it back to me. And he goes, sit down, let's take some photographs. As the good Lord is my witness, guys. And Austin, you've seen the photographs. I mean, they're on my counter.
Yep.
There they were. I'm not sure where they are now. And so they were in my office. And so I'm talking to him. Finally, Peter Lowe walks up and he goes, how are you getting along with this guy? Peter Lowe was the guy who was basically doing the seminars. He was the head guy. He goes, how are you getting along with Cosby? He seems like he likes you. And I said, well, I'm just not going to put up with this crap, Peter. And he goes, well, can you do me a favor? Can you take care of him until he speaks? Nobody else wants to associate with him. This is what they said. And I'm like, well, why am I the babysitter for Bill Cosby now? Why am I required to take care of him? I said, look, Peter, if you're a friend of mine, I'll be more than happy to babysit Bill Cosby for you. So we sat there and we talked. And it was crazy that finally and I kid you not, guys, he probably had a $10,000 suit on, probably a $3,000 tie. Yes, I didn't know this, but $3,000 ties do exist. I mean, I didn't know that. I know I found a TV evangelist one time who actually wears those. And so he had like a $3,000 tie on, $10,000 suit on, the best looking suit of clothes I've ever seen. Now, a lot of black guys, when they go to church, they get really dressed up. This was beyond that. This was like ridiculously a lot of money. I mean, incredibly, expensive watch on, the whole bit. And he pulls out this stogie. I'll never forget this. Nobody's supposed to smoke it in here, but he yanks out a stogie. This thing was like 12 inches long. It was like a foot-long cigar. I'm sure it was some big Cuban. And he pulls it out. He starts puffing away right in the middle of the seminar. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm actually developing a rapport with this weirdo. I'm just going to forget the cigar. I just sit there and talk to him. And so finally he smokes this cigar. We're talking for a couple hours. And finally he sets the cigar down. And he goes, now, when I get done speaking, because I'll go up and speak, he goes, I don't want any souvenirs. I want this cigar left here, and I don't want anybody touching it. And I looked at him. I said, look, Mr. Cosby, I am not babysitting the cigar. I said, somebody throw your cigar away, buddy. That's on you, not on me. And he said, all right, I got it. And I'll never forget, Austin, he went up on the platform, and he read out of Rudyard Kipling's book, Gunga Din, about trench warfare in World War I with the blood and the guts and the horror of the war. And this was his 30-minute speech. The people were so depressed by the time he got done, they were like, boy, this guy sucks. I cannot believe we paid to hear Bill Cosby, and here he is talking about Gunga Din. We thought he was going to go up there and do a 30-minute stand-up comedy act. And, I mean, the people were like in tears, ready to fall down and, commit suicide after they heard him speak. It was awful. And so then as soon as he gets done, he flies back to the speaker's room, grabs his cigar, and jumps in a limo, which is parked there behind the stage because it's like in a big arena, and off he goes. And I'm like myself, that was a really odd thing dealing with this guy. So when I started reading that he was doing this and he was raping these women and drugging these women, I was not surprised. Remember, back in the 60s and the 70s, he was a huge, basically, participant at the Playboy Mansion over in California. He's also been linked many times to the MK Ultra Monarch program. So this guy is high up there. Now, I don't know who in the world he hacked off at the Rothschild level or whatever he did as far as one of his handlers, because somebody gave that boy the nod back in the 50s and the 60s to become super successful, and he done ticked somebody off for them to come after him like this and put him on public spectacle. In fact, 2 years ago, in the middle of all this, I'll never forget this, he actually did an inverted triangle shape when he was talking on a national talk show, which means mercy, to these whackbags. And he's like, please, show mercy to me, leave me be. They decided to show him no mercy. But now, because of what he did to Lori, she came back to that seminar office. She was crying in tears. She was hysterical. And, I walked over and gave her a hug. So I'm so sorry. I asked if I could pray with her. Guys, this is who Bill Cosby is. So if you think this is some, Mr. Huxtable and all that kind of stuff that he was on these TV sitcom shows, this guy is a hardcore nutbag. And now find out he's a serial rapist on top of everything else. So I am not surprised with anything that happens to him or what he's done. So yes, I personally know him. Yes, I personally dealt with him. And yes, I've personally seen a side of him that nobody ever needs to act like, period, ever in the history of the planet. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, it is sad. And the thing that a lot of people fall away from is when they start becoming more popular and more successful is they think that they don't have to be nice to anybody anymore. And the truth about it is it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how, cool you are, what your status is. you're not better than anybody else. You're still a human being. We're all made in the image of God Almighty. We're all the same level here. So, I mean, acting like that and treating people like that, all it does is make everybody honestly hate you. And everybody, every time you leave, if they don't say it to your face, they just spit behind your back. Oh, gosh, thank goodness he's gone. He's such a nightmare to be around. That's not a legacy or something you want to be remembered for. That's horrible, man. And, but the sins of your past always end up coming up to bite you. And it looks like this actually came back to bite him now. And like you said, Dad, he definitely got the nod with how much success he got in the past. So there's no telling, though, who he hacked off with his attitude or how cocky he got with somebody. And they finally were like, all right, you want to play this role? We'll let it go.
Well, you know what he might have done, Austin? And I'm speculating. This is my speculation. He may have raped the wrong person.
Oh, wow, yeah.
He may have raped somebody's daughter. He may have raped somebody's daughter. Yeah. He may have raped somebody's wife. Okay, for them to for them to let him get to almost $500 million in net worth and to drop kick him this hard, that boy done hacked somebody off. There's no way with that kind of money that any of this should have ever gone to trial. He should have pled it all out, paid out a bunch of money, and been done with this stuff. These are criminal charges on him right now. The Bible has something to say about this in Proverbs as far as wealth and success. And here's what the Word of God says. I'm going to paraphrase it. It says, as silver is tested in the crucible to determine its purity, and gold is tested in the furnace to determine its purity, a man is tested by the praise that he or she receives. In other words, so many of these TV evangelists and so many of these big movie stars, they start thinking that basically they can do anything they want to do, treat anybody any way they want to treat them, and not have any blowback from it, because they think that they're basically God's gift to creation. That's why the Word says that. That's why so many of these evangelists have gone up so high and fallen so hard, because they get very, very arrogant. Guys, I can tell you names of multiple TV evangelists who commit adultery on their wife, who are homosexuals, who are involved in drug running, who are involved in... I got to stop. I've seen all of it. I've seen murder. I've seen so much of it. And guys, I'm telling you, I'm going to say this again. I've been behind the scenes with a bunch of these boys and girls, and you need to get money to your local church. Don't be sending your tithe money if you're going to a local church to some TV evangelist. I promise you, they're never going to show up if you need a funeral priest or if you need somebody to pray with you. They'll send some of their little liaisons that maybe somebody will call you, but I doubt very seriously you'll ever get somebody to preach your funeral. It's just they don't do that. They put you into basically a funnel. And that funnel drops you through in the different categories. It's like the old change machines where you put a whole handful of nickels and pennies and quarters in, and they drop it all down. They drop you down, and they designate you as terms of giving units. How much money you give determines how much response you're going to get from them, and that's what they do constantly. And then pretty soon they figure out if you don't give X amount of money, they pull you off their database. It's all scientifically designed to get the maximum response from you as a giving unit, which is what you're designated as. So guys, be really careful with these guys. And I'm not saying they're all like that. There's a lot of really good church pastors out there who have big churches, I mean huge churches, that are not like this. They are not like this. But the guys, the majority of these guys, especially some of the whack bags that you see out of some of the big TV networks, you just need to avoid them. A bunch of those guys are queer anyhow. I'm just letting you know. If you want to read a really good book, I can't believe I'm on this topic today. If you want to really read a really good book, get the book Thieves by Trey Smith. Thieves, Thieves. Thieves by Trey Smith. I'm not going to talk about the evangelist who's in there. He goes into detail on one of these TV evangelists and what an unbelievable lowlife he is. And guys, think about this. This book's been in print for years. This evangelist has never sued him for defamation, ever. Because this evangelist basically doesn't want this stuff to be publicized. So, guys, that's the kind of stuff you're dealing with behind the scenes. It's not what you think it is. A lot of these guys, all they care about is their lifestyle and how much money they get. They don't care about souls. Now, I'm not saying in the beginning they didn't care about souls, but a lot of these guys actually get into nonprofit organizations like this because they know they can make a lot of money and not pay much tax and have an incredible lifestyle. I've seen it over and over and over again. Support your local church. And I'm off this topic. Austin, so what do you want to talk about next?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely some crazy stuff, but also, too, in pretty cool news, if this is actually legit, and it seems like it is, and this isn't some type of obfuscation, The leaders of North and South Korea today have now committed themselves to complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and pledged to bring a formal end to the Korean War 65 years after hostilities have ceased. So this was a huge boiler room that's really calmed down now. Both of them have agreed to terms. They both have signed, and they look like they're both in unity now about this. I mean, they were shaking hands and hugging at this entire meeting, and like I said, I don't know, this possibly could be theater to do something else, but I don't think so. It seemed pretty legit, and if it is, it's good. You know, now we won't have another excuse to go attack another country right now, hopefully. So this is, though, interesting because this is happening now. Be sure to watch out what's going on in Syria and the Middle East, because if South Korea and North Korea are on good terms and North Korea is calming down with their rhetoric, then we're going to have to find a new boogeyman to focus all of our aggression on to keep the war on terror going now, Dad.
Well, we have to keep the war going. It's a useless war. It can't be won. That's why Bush declared it.
No.
Okay. Yeah, guys, remember who Bush is. Forget this. Skull and Bones. They got to get into a casket with another guy and do all kinds of, weird stuff. I mean, it's what they got to do. I mean, this is some sick stuff. And then they get born again out of the casket. I mean, into like Lucifer's lair. I mean, these people are not like, Southern Baptists, okay? That's not what they are, okay? These are hardcore Luciferians. This is a hardcore death cult. This is Skull and Bones. Why is it called Skull and Bones? It's actually linked back to the pirate. I mean, it's not like Mary Had a Little Lamb cult. This is Skull and Bones. This isn't like Happy. This is like death cult stuff. And that's who these guys are, both George Jr. and George Sr. And then and they're saying that when George Sr. became so senile he couldn't run anymore, that Barbara Bush became one of the chief occultists in the United States, and now that she's dead, I don't know who's going to take over for that. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's speculation. I know these people, too. I know all these people. I mean, Austin's met these people. And so this is the craziest stuff that you ever talk about because, you know these people. You're kind of like, well, they didn't really try to kill anybody around me. But, the point is, it's not what they do in public, bud. It's what they do in these dark seance things that they do all the time in the middle of all of this mess. Unbelievable. What's your next story, bud?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, also, too, it's ironic. I saw this article today, and I thought this was quite interesting how, we demonize Syria and try to say he did this and he did that, and he's released chemical weapons, and he's basically broken all of these, as far as human rights issues, even though we have no evidence at all. Well, Saudi Arabia, the United States' main primary ally in the Middle East, has already executed 48 people this year, over half of them for non-violent drug possession. They said many people convicted of drug crimes remain on death row following convictions by Saudi Arabia's notoriously unfair criminal justice system. The Saudi government has continued the practice of beheading, as they beheaded 157 people in 2015, the highest since 1995. Non-violent drug offenders were among those killed as well that year. I said Human Rights Watch found that of the first 100 prisoners executed in 2015, 56 had been based on judicial discretion and not for crimes for which any Islamic law mandates a specific death penalty. So what they're saying here is 56 of the 100 prisoners first executed in 2015 did not break any law as far as with the Quran, with Islam, with anything. It was simply judicial discretion, meaning the judge said, hang him from the bridge, or better yet, cut his head off. I don't like him. He looked at me bad. I don't like what he's doing. Cut his head off. That's what they do over there. The Human Rights Watch also discussed the difficulty of obtaining an actually fair trial in Saudi Arabia, highlighting, among other issues, that there's a long-standing due process violations repeatedly in Saudi Arabia's criminal justice system that makes it difficult, if not impossible, for a defendant to get a fair trial, even in capital cases. But, man, imagine that. We haven't heard anything about this on CNN or Fox or any other mainstream news outlet. Why? Because we're allies with Saudi Arabia, and we let them do anything they want, and including we give them, I still haven't figured this out yet, we give them foreign aid. Yet, it's granted, it's only like $600,000 a year. That's still a lot of money, and they're literally one of the most wealthiest nations in the country when it comes to natural resources and their oil, and we we still give them foreign aid, and they turn around and execute hundreds of people every year, many of which don't even break any type of Islamic law. It's simply the judge saying, hang him from the bridge, and they're saying here that it's one of the most difficult countries to actually get any type of fair trial whatsoever in. Yet, like I said, when is the last time you ever heard anybody in the mainstream media talk about Saudi Arabia or talk about any human rights violations in Saudi Arabia at all? You never hear that. And that's why I wanted to bring it up on our show here. It just shows you the complete and total hypocrisy, how we want to go get involved in Syria because they allegedly use some type of chlorine gas that we can't even prove. Yes, Saudi Arabia had hundreds of people for most crimes that are literally like minor drug possession, and we don't even make a peep about it, Dad, here in the United States.
You know, it reminds me of two movies. Remember the old movie Officer and Gentleman back there with Richard Gere way back in the wind, and he's got that drill sergeant, and then he looks at the drill sergeant and he goes, "You eyeballing me, boy? You eyeballing me?" He's looking at him. You know, he's kind of got it. He's sharp. You know, he's flashing him. He's looking at him kind of mean, and he gets in his face, starts making him do push-ups and stuff. And then I remember the other movie with Rambo, that last one Sylvester Stallone did, that was over in Burma. And I remember they were prisoners, and he goes, "Whatever you do, don't look them in the eye." See, in different cultures, when you look people in the eye, you basically are saying, you know, I think I'm meaner, better, you know, or whatever than you are. And quite frankly, I don't think you're really worth, you know, being respectful towards. And when you do that in certain groups in certain countries like Saudi Arabia, you eyeball the judge. Apparently he just cut your head off, Austin. Apparently he just said, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and whack your noggin off right now and be done with that and see how many times you can blink when I ask you questions and let ahead. That's what they're doing over there. A bunch of sickos. And see, the sad part about all this, Austin, is that you said it exactly right. Because of the petrodollar, because we're allies with them, because all currencies of the dollar is coming out, all the oil being sold in Saudi Arabia has to be bought in U.S. dollar, which has maintained the value of the dollar way past where it should have been maintained. We basically just tolerate it. We ignore them. You know, when more Saudis were involved in 9/11, if you want to believe the entire weird story with that, with 9/11 report, which that's a bunch of nonsense anyhow, you'd be better off to read Judy Wood's book, Dr. Judy Wood, Where Did the Towers Go? That asks a lot more questions, or watch the video, basically 9/11 Mysteries, or, you know, watch, of course, the classic is Loose Change. You watch all of those movies, and if you still think the government, you know, is here to help you, you're not going to realize very quickly that they're not. By the way, here's something interesting happened in North Carolina prison. A man who identifies as a woman is now suing the North Carolina prison for not accommodating his practice of witchcraft. This is just nuts. A male inmate who identifies as a woman has sued the Lansborough Correctional Institution of North Carolina for not accommodating his practice of Wicca, also known as pagan witchcraft. Dwayne Fox, who goes by the name of Jennifer Jasmine, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This isn't funny. I'm gonna stop. But just the name Jennifer Jasmine. It just, come on, man. Really, you had a cool name, Dwayne Fox. That's pretty good. Now you're gonna go by Jennifer Jasmine. Alleges that the chaplains at the institution have violated his constitutional right to religious exercise, including his specific dietary needs. I don't know what he wants to do. He wants to get chicken heads or something. I don't know what's wrong with these people. People must have dropped them on their heads or something. Oh, by the way, also there's a ritualistic burial site discovered. Hundreds of bodies of children, maybe the world's largest. This is roughly 500 years ago, and according to the researchers, 140 children and a whole bunch of other people fell victim to what appears to be ritualistic sacrifice in Peru. Now, this is Peru is home to the famous sites like Machu Picchu. Now, I've been there. Been to Machu Picchu, seen all that. Really, really great place to go. It was on my bucket list. One of the things I really, really wanted to do. And when I was there talking to the people who were giving the tours, the indigenous population that was there, that was basically saying, hey, we love Machu Picchu. And I said to them, well, you know, the reality is nobody really knows what happened to Machu Picchu. They probably killed all their people through ritual sacrifice. And she goes, oh, no. Yeah. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. So I go up to their temple. I'm on the top of this temple. There's a big rock laying on top of the temple, right? And I said, what was this? She goes, that was a sacrificial altar. And I looked at her, I started laughing. I said, what do you think they were sacrificing? I said, really? Well, we don't like to talk about it because it makes the tourists kind of unnervous, but probably a lot of blood sacrifice here. I said, well, that's the problem. Well, maybe that's what happened to Machu Picchu, why it just disappeared. You start killing all the children, you don't have any population left to continue after everybody else has passed childbearing age. Newsflash. Gosh, it's crazy. The site first made headlines in 2011 when the remains of all these children were found. It's right there really close to Machu Picchu. The remains of the children and animals reveal several unique factors that indicate that this was basically a ritualistic sacrifice. They had their, oh God, this is horrible. They had their bodies had been cut to the sternums, and rib dislocations would suggest that the victim's heart were removed and their bodies were torn apart while they were still alive. Guys, this stuff has been going on and on and on and on. Read the Old Testament. You'll get a craw full through the Old Testament. God, to read about Baal passing their children through the fire, all the Wicca poles, all the weird whack stuff they used to do back then, all the Asherah poles, all the stuff they did. I mean, gosh, we've got a giant phallic symbol called the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., and you guys can look it up. You know, it measures like 666 feet to the peak if you include the doggone foundation. So, guys, it's one of those things that, you know, we got a lot of occult references and stuff involved, even in the United States, with the Masonic orders that were infiltrated, guys. It's very important that you understand this is not a joke. These things are real. And these weirdos actually do this and actually drink blood and kill people. This is something that Hillary Clinton, they accused her of many, many times in alternative media. And supposedly, some video, don't download it because it'll probably be some type of nasty stuff, some kind of criminal charges on it of her and somebody else committing a ritualistic sacrifice. I have not watched it. I don't like seeing stuff like that. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. And I'm not promoting that anybody watches it. I'm just saying, guys, it's real. And the leaders of this planet who are in line with Lucifer, this is what they do, including children by the hundreds, whenever they feel as though they need to appease their whack-bag god they have. What do you think, Oz?
Well, yeah, I mean, Mel Gibson did that film in 2006, Apocalypto, about the Mayans and the sacrifices they were doing. If anybody's ever seen it, it's a very rough film, so I don't recommend watching that unless you're really wanting to see what that was about. But that was a very, very realistic depiction of what those guys did back then. I mean, they have that giant monument that they're on top of up there. They have a line of people, literally, they're dragging up there and cutting their heads off. They're spraying blood everywhere. They throw the bodies down the stairs, let them bounce down the stairs, and there's literally a pile, I mean a giant pile of corpses at the bottom of this thing, and then finally the sun basically gets blotted out by the moon, and for a minute or whatever, and so they freak out and they think they've appeased the gods now, and they stop sacrificing people for a little bit. But yet there was some really, really weird stuff back then. As Dad said, you keep sacrificing all the kids, you eventually run out of people to keep sacrificing, and everybody just kind of eventually dies. So that's an issue. Who knows what happened up there, Machu Picchu, but definitely that stuff was very prevalent back then. Also, too, change topics. We talked at the beginning of this week how the prison industrial complex has exploded in this country over the last 15 to 20 years, especially with the war on. And now we see that the detainment centers, they're going to start running, the private prison industry is going to start running these detainment centers for illegals that come here, and they're not disclosing how long they're going to be here, how long they're going to be held for, nothing. But now a new release came out that shows that the federal government paid an average bed rate of $127.82 per day per person to house each illegal alien detained by ICE in a fiscal year of 2016, according to the ICE data published by the Government Accountability Office. Even if you do not count the extra day in the leap year, that works out to $46,654 per year per person for each detention bed occupied by an illegal alien for 365 days. The crazy part about that is that that's actually higher than the average income in the United States. So we're to a point where detaining illegals in this country for a year costs the United States taxpayer more than the average taxpayer makes the entire year. I don't even know how to put those together and make any sense of that, but this is the issue. The fact that we're paying on average $127 a day, I don't know what type of expenses these guys are allocating. This is the issue, though, with the private prison industry complex, because they literally have very little oversight. They're told, house these individuals, give us a cost, give us a number, this is what it is. They make a large amount of money, and this is how they continue to operate for years and years and years. So this is something that's promoted through that, and we're promoting it through our taxpayer dollars through the funding of ICE. But I just thought that was interesting today, that when I saw that, how we continue to see why it's so profitable for the private prison industry.
Well, it would probably be easier just to pay them $20,000 a person, never make them work. It'd be cheaper, cost so much money.
There you go.
I mean, just think about how that reason is. I mean, let's just go ahead and pay them $20,000 a year, almost half as much, and just let them at least pretend like they're doing something. We need to jump on the side and try to maintain some productivity. Again, collaborative pivot. Broward Deputy Union. By the way, I'm really pleased with Broward Deputy Union. Has voted no confidence in the low-life Sheriff Israel, who basically helped facilitate the Parkland shooting by ordering a stand down on the officers who were involved in supposedly trying to stop what I consider to be a Mossad or a Black Ops by some other secret society or secret organization or mercenary group, who knows, into this school. Now, he's gotten a no confidence vote now from the other sheriff from all the other unions. So hopefully this guy, this Hillary Clinton bosom buddy, I'm going to stop. I'm going to say something I shouldn't say. Doesn't get reelected. Austin, what do you think?
I can't stand this guy. He's bad news from the beginning. I've heard numerous things about him even before the Parkland shooting that I was not a fan of whatsoever. And even the president of the Broward Sheriff Office Deputies Association said, and I quote, he said he fails to listen to the people and he fails to listen to leadership. Amazing leadership starts from the top, and there is no amazing leadership here. We are a ship out at sea with no power, adrift. And so these guys voted. Now, right now, it's basically simply a show. Nothing can really be done yet as far as with the union vote on here. But apparently it's supposed to go up to another step now. They even said what's even more revealing is that in the aftermath of the shooting, with numerous issues exposing inside Israel's department, including the fact that the officers are doing a stand-down order that nobody wants to talk about, the sheriff has been more focused on repairing his own image. He said that a non-profit group headed by his campaign manager was formed to raise money so it could hire a crisis management firm to prop up Israel's flagging public image. His priority has not been on the problem in his own department, evidenced by the union voting to express concern within its body. So basically what's going on now is they're going to see if they can start pushing to get a new sheriff as far as to run against him in the election and get this complete and total lowlife out of office. But there was something going on behind this whole shooting. We've already told you guys that in detail, even from the one interview from the teacher that said why are the police in the school shooting at students? He was carrying a rifle that I've never seen before. An iconic AR-15 is a pretty hard rifle to say you've never seen before. However, if they were carrying a 5.56 Tavor, which is what the Israeli battle rifle is, which is a bullpup, the goofy-looking gun, that would make a lot more sense. But there was a whole other reason why those sheriffs were issued a stand-down order and told not to go in the building. And this idiot sheriff who's supposed to be there to protect and serve got on national television. This is when I really realized what a total sack of poo this guy was, a real sack of poo, is he got on that CNN, that whatever the first thing they had, the town hall CNN thing, and he got on there and he blamed the NRA, overtly blamed them repeatedly for the deaths of the children, blamed gun owners, blamed anybody that supported the NRA, blamed anybody else but himself, when everybody ended up finding out just a few days later that the sheriff's department had a stand-down order and were told not to go in the building. And on top of that, the EMT first responders that got there were also told they could not enter the building because the site was not cleared. And they responded, said, well, then let's clear the scene so we can get in and do triage. And they said, we don't have approval for that yet. If you go in there, we're basically going to arrest you. And they said, okay, we don't even need approval. We're first responders. You guys just get out of our way, and we're going to go in there. And they said, no, if you do that, you're impeding the law enforcement scene, and we will arrest you. They were going to arrest first responders for wanting to go in school unarmed with an unclear building just so they could go and start applying medic treatment and triaging the students, and they were told no. That right there should tell anybody that has a brain in their head that there was something else going on at that school that was not supposed to be found out. And it's sad, but this guy, in my opinion, was 100% about it, behind it. All the stuff we've seen in the past with him and the stuff currently, I really, really hope they can get this guy out of office, Dad.
I'm not going to talk about him because I'm just going to get mad, and I don't want to get mad. I'm on with Hagman tonight, so I got to save a little bit of energy. I've already told you how I feel about this guy. By the way, the drugging of American seniors. Big pharma profits depend on sick seniors. Now, stay with me for a second on this. This article by FASCA. As the baby boomer generations move into their senior years, they are seen as cash cows for the pharmaceutical satanic corporations. I added the satanic part. For example, it is estimated that about 1 out of every 4 Americans over the age of 55 are currently being prescribed cholesterol-lowering statin drugs, which have very serious side effects. They don't prolong lifespans, and they cause like a bunch of different diseases. Studies have confirmed that dementia, especially early onset dementia, is often caused by too many pharmaceutical drugs. Saw it with my own mom. Medications are common culprits in mental decline with aging. The liver becomes less efficient at metabolizing drugs. There you go. Can't get them out of your system. And the kidneys eliminate them from the body more slowly. As a result, drugs tend to accumulate in the body. Elderly people in poor health and those taking several different medications are especially vulnerable. A list of drugs that can cause dementia-like symptoms include antidepressants, antihistamines, anti-Parkinson drugs, anti-anxiety medications, cardiovascular drugs like statins, anticonvulsants, corticosteroids, narcotics, and sedatives. As people age, they wind up taking an average more than 4 prescribed pharmaceutical drugs daily. At the age of 60 right now, I think the 37% of the population takes 5 or more prescription drugs a day. Many of these medications are for heart disease, prevented by lowering cholesterol, they say, or for lowering blood pressure. Okay, guys, these drugs are intended to be on until you're dead, until you die and you're in your casket. Guys, there are all kinds of natural ways you can lower cholesterol, plus you don't want it under 200 anyhow. And there's all kinds of natural ways you can lower blood pressure. That's super easy to do with HGH Stimulate and a little mini round trampoline and the magnesium brain food. Side effects of these drugs alone can create the need for more prescriptions. In other words, one drug treats another drug treats another drug, cover up the symptoms. The pharmaceutical business model depends on sick customers staying sick, not healing them. We saw that a couple of weeks ago when Goldman Sachs said they don't want to cure hepatitis because there's too much money in treating them long term. Alzheimer's disease is seen by some as mostly a modern disease, mainly because too many prescription drugs and too much exposure to aluminum in the environment, including the annual flu shot, which contains aluminum and is heavily promoted to seniors and also contains thimerosal or mercury. Expanding prescription guidelines to get more healthy people on drugs. We see this with the blood pressure. We've seen it with cholesterol. Unknown to many consumers and doctors in this insidious industry is a strategy of expanding the market by creating wider clinical guideline parameters for prescribing drugs to prevent heart disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes. The corruption lies within the committees that decide the new guidelines. Most of their members, get this, are financially connected to the pharmaceutical corporations that are promoting the drugs, so they get paid more money if they sell more drugs, and they change those parameters. 3 types of drugs that affect the growing community of Canadian citizens, and this is what's happened in recent years. Number 1, cholesterol-lowering statin drugs. Guys, I'm not going to talk about it. It's too much. Drugs for reducing high blood pressure. This is, again, the retirement group. And the FDA's true role is protecting the pharmaceutical, medical industry, Sabbatean Kabbalist, synagogue of Satan's industry's medical monopoly. That is a fact. Guys, it's so easy to use natural protocols to take care of almost every single condition that you have. Medicine is used primarily, as far as I'm concerned, for trauma care. If a person gets into an automobile accident and they're cut or they've been lacerated, they've got to be stitched up. That's one thing. You have to have an emergency room. Okay? If you have to have heart surgery for some reason because of some congenital heart defect, that's what you go for. But all of these treatment protocols that are being used to maintain sickness in someone, to treat symptoms and never correct the condition, as far as I'm concerned, it's all Luciferian-based. That's how I believe about it. What do you think, Austin?
I think you're very accurate about that, and they've done an incredibly good job at brainwashing the American population into believing that you have to have a drug to fix a issue instead of actually looking at the natural sources that we have already given to us by God, whether it be through supplements, whether it be through plants, whether it be through proper nutrients, whether it be through herbs, whatever it is, that we have majority of this stuff already available to us. And as we discussed yesterday in detail, that we already have a list of dietary guidelines that God laid out for us that are the most efficient, effective way to eat to stay as healthy as physically possible. As of yesterday, it was a great show. If you guys didn't hear it yet and you want to know more on dietary guidelines, that was a fantastic show that explained it in detail, and that's what everybody has to start getting back to, is the basics. The root of this is what you put in your body, you're going to get out of your body. If you flood your body with toxic GMOs, with soda, with sugar, with aspartame, with fluoridated water, with a boatload of pharmaceutical drugs every single day, you're going to get about as much as you put in it, which is going to be nothing except horrible, horrible side effects. That's what people have to start understanding, and that this has all been done, purposely through the pharmaceutical company, through the vaccine company, through the medical industry complex to make people as sick as possible and then keep them on these lifelong protocols and drugs. As I talked about 2 weeks ago, Goldman Sachs even wrote a review essentially on the aspect of, is it profitable to make drugs that actually cure people? Is it long-term financially feasible to actually cure hepatitis C, or should we make a drug that essentially keeps you alive long enough to make our return off of you and make a larger profit off of you and then allow you to die instead of actually curing it? You can go back and listen to that show with Goldman Sachs. They wrote this. It can't be any more blatant than that as far as what their stated goal is. They don't even hide what their goal is anymore. They're blatantly obvious about what they want to do is keep people on the medical bills, keep people on the prescription list so they can continue to rake in hundreds upon hundreds of $1 billion a year just in pharmaceuticals. That doesn't even take into account the cost of the medical bills, the cost of the doctors, the cost of all the other treatments they have. Over in, I think, the United States now, we spent, $560 billion in pharmaceuticals just last year alone. Just pharmaceuticals. That is an insane amount of money, Dad, just in drugs.
But also think about this: $560 billion in pharmaceuticals, $1.5 trillion in heroin.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Think through that for a second. That's how much money this heroin's, and that was at 4,800 metric tons. We're at 10,000 metric tons now. I doubt it'll double in value because it's going to have more exposure. There'll be more product on the street, so it'll probably drop down some. It'll probably go from 1.5 trillion to 2.5 trillion because remember, people that are heroin addicts, to them, they have an inelastic demand curve. They have to have their heroin. They'll pay anything for it, and they'll do anything for it, with the sad part with the drug addicts. By the way, a couple of years ago, one of Germany's top broadcasters got on national TV and told everybody that the CIA ran the media in Germany. And, of course, he was suicided. He was suicided a couple of years later. He found dead. Now, Germany's largest public TV news broadcaster is saying that the Syrian chemical attack is most likely staged. This guy needs to watch his back. A senior correspondent for the German state media broadcast ZFF Heute stunned his European audience during a report from the ground in Syria, where he gave a straightforward and honest account of his findings while investigating what happened in Duma. The veteran reporter, Uli Gach, said he interviewed multiple eyewitnesses of the April 7th alleged chemical attack and concluded from the testimonials that this was staged. And many people are very convinced. So now he's going to be basically watching his back. We'll see how long he stays alive. Guys, when you get on national TV like this with these big audiences, see, and that's the thing. That's the whole thing. If you get up to the point where you're reaching 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 million, 100 million people a week, and you start telling them the truth, You start breaking that veil off around them. You start messing up with all these weird satanic chants and spells they're throwing on people because people are waking up. It's kind of like, you're laying in bed and someone says to you in your ear, there's nobody standing here with a knife by your throat. And you're like, okay, well, who's telling me this? Why am I hearing this? This isn't cool right now. I don't like this at all. And suddenly you reach for your Glock or you reach for your 12 gauge and you quickly cover your throat and you start shooting at whatever shadows you see, hoping and praying that it's not somebody you don't want to shoot because you're hearing all these weird things. They got these things called the voice of God. They can actually put cranial voices in your head. Guys, this is some crazy stuff that's involved with these guys. And quite frankly, these guys, when they get real big like this, they have millions of listeners, and they're talking all over Germany on their public broadcast network, and they're highly respected. They carry a lot of weight and a lot of clout. This would be like that gay guy, whatever his name is, I forgot his name, on CNN. If he gets up there and he goes, all of a sudden he goes, by the way, I've been lying to you guys. I'm a CIA asset. Anderson Cooper. I'm a CIA asset, and I've been part of this program for a while now. They tell me what to say, and and quite frankly, you guys are all being played. I mean, this whole thing's ridiculous, and this whole thing's a scam, and you guys are going to be played even more if you don't wake up. Because guys, this is not what you think it is. We are not in Kansas anymore. This is a serious mess we've got in the United States. And they're going to go, uh-oh. That's the problem with a live microphone. That's the problem with a live microphone. That's why when you give somebody the chance to get on your show and you're not around to try to control the mic, they can pretty much say whatever you want to say. That's why you got to be so careful. You've been in churches before, guys, where they have, testimonial time. If you're in a Baptist church, you've been here already. You heard all this. And also the pastor will hold the microphone for somebody if they're a good pastor, but they won't let the person take the microphone. Because once they take the microphone, if they start running around screaming things that are really crazy, you have a hard time. No, I've seen it, Austin. I've seen it. You have a hard time getting the microphone back, So that's the problem. When you give a person a live mic, on national TV or national radio, this is why they yanked me off the air back 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, when they started pulling me off and not letting me be on the show. Because I didn't care. I was as candid and as direct as I am on this show, on all these huge regional broadcast groups that I was in, and these syndicated shows. And we were making a difference, huge difference. Suddenly, my mic got pulled because, guys, I was talking to them everything about the aspartame, the fluoride. I was telling them everything in conventions of up to 40,000 people and millions of people listening on radio. And suddenly it was like, I didn't get my phone calls returned anymore. Why? Because someone up above them said, hey, get this Ted Brower guy off, get all these alternative health people off. We don't want them competing with our drug advertisers and basically saying things they should not say, which will affect the sales of these people that are spending billions of dollars with us every single year in marketing their poisonous, toxic products. Because remember, in a lot of cases, you're not sick. You're being poisoned by the food that you eat and by the drugs that you're taking, Austin. What do you think?
That's very well said. And I mean, most people have pretty much already come to realize, if you've listened to this show and you've done your research, I mean, the mainstream media pretty much is the CIA. I mean, the whole aspect with Cooper, I mean, people already know, it's common knowledge that, I mean, when he was at Yale, yes, Yale, that he interned with the CIA numerous summers, and then supposedly decided not to take a job with the CIA, and in turn went with CNN, which, I mean, okay, whatever. That's how CIA operatives work. They don't tell you they're spies. They don't come out and say, oh, by the way, yes, I got recruited by the CIA. I am a legit CIA spy now, and I'm actually going to work with the mainstream media as a spy, covertly finding things out and then telling you disinformation. So I just want to let you guys know that before I do it. They don't do that. Come on, guys. I mean, this is what we've been lied to, the whole thing about the mainstream media and what they put out. I mean, it's all lies and obfuscation to keep the masses asleep and dull. And so I told you the other day, does anybody ever think it's coincidence why the largest marketing contributors to every single mainstream media outlet is the big pharmaceutical companies, the largest by billions? I mean, they contribute more money than like every other marketing Trump by the top media. So you start looking up and you're going, okay, there's a reason why Fox won't talk about pharmaceuticals. There's a reason why nobody wants to link all these different drugs, pharmaceuticals, into the death shootings. There's a reason why the mainstream media never talked about Operation Mockingbird when the CIA had a long-standing relationship with the corporate media. They never talk about any of this stuff. They're bringing it up. They always just tell you whatever you need to know. And one thing I did find interesting, you're talking about a second ago, Deb, is people coming out and breaking their programming. Kanye West, I don't know what's going on with him lately, but he has got a bone to pick with everything in the media right now. And remember a year and a half ago, he got on stage at like 70,000 people at his arena, sold out concert, stops his concert in the middle of it and goes on a rant for 45 minutes about basically the Illuminati and how they control the media and how they do what they want you to do, and they put who they want on the music, who they put on the radio. If you don't do what they tell you to do, you don't become famous. 2 days later, he got involuntary Baker acted, and then comes out like, okay, I'm good again. Now he's breaking back out again. He's supported Trump. He's blatantly coming out now with all this stuff as far as with the Black Lives Matter lies and everything else the media's been doing. He's been saying the opposite. So he's another one. He really, really, really needs to watch his back, because rarely, most cases from the research that I've done, rarely do these guys get to the top ranking levels of the music industry without having some dirt behind them, because the globalists, the Illuminati, all these guys, whoever you want to refer to them as, they don't let these guys get into power unless they have some type of control on them for this exact reason. They don't want them waking up, and they don't want them shouting from the rooftops what they know, and everybody else starting to wake up, because a lot of people are going, well, Kanye West, I like Kanye West. Oh, so do I. Well, what does he say? It's true. We need to look this up. I've never been a huge fan of him. I never really liked music. I don't even know about him. However, he's got awake, and he's starting to figure out what's going on, and he's repeatedly calling these guys out, Dad, which I think is almost humorous, because the more and more people that we wake up and this starts happening, we can actually spur some change, especially with these people that have, millions of followers on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff. They have a platform that's a lot bigger than most people, and they can make changes real fast when they start waking up.
We've reached the tipping point, Austin. Tipping point in the country is 10% or above. And that's why the media is scared right now. That's why the globalists are scared. That's why these Luciferian whackbags are scared, because all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, there's a lot more of them than there are us. See, I mean, if they say there's a few million of these nutbags in the country, well, there's 360 million of us. I mean, there's a lot more of us. And there's really nothing they can do if we decide that we don't want to play the little game anymore. We start saying, hey, I don't believe you anymore. I think you're a liar. How about that? How about I think you're a weirdo? How about I think you like little boys? How about you're a sicko, you pervert? How about we say that to you? And see, when you start doing that to them, they don't know what to do, because suddenly all of a sudden their little mind control games, or little Jedi mind control stuff they like to do, it's not working for them anymore. See, that's what they're scared of. They're scared the population of the country is going to reach a tipping point. We saw it with Donald Trump's election. If Donald Trump had come forward with us in the very beginning, said, okay, I'm president now. I want you to know something. I've done some really crappy stuff in my life. And they're going to use this stuff against me. So whenever they start to talk about this stuff and they're going to threaten me with it, I'm going to tell you what I did before they can do it. Because that way they're not going to do all this blackmail nonsense to me. And we're going to make America great again. And we're going to do it because I'm going to go ahead and take the hit. If this means I'm going to ruin my career after I'm a president, it doesn't make any difference. I'll be 74, 78 years old when I get out. Who cares? Whatever. Don't care. But I'm going to stand for what righteousness is. I'm going to stand for the truth. And I'm going to tell you guys, if I've screwed up, if I slept with a whore, okay, and they're going to use it against me, I'm going to tell you I slept with a whore. See, that's the thing that Trump should have done. And everybody in this country would have loved him more, because he was going to make America great, and he was going to bring the swamp. But God, you can't put swamp creatures back in the swamp and say you're bringing the swamp. It just doesn't work that way. So Trump is being managed right now, though he's a little bit unruly, and every once in a while you do something that he wants to do, that he knows is best for the people. But guys, just let him keep working him. And after 7 or 8 years, he'll be just like the rest of it if he doesn't stand. Because, guys, he simply doesn't know he's involved his entire life. Because, guys, these guys are controlled. He's a billionaire, was a billionaire, maybe a billionaire still. I don't know what he is. His debt. But the whole thing is this, guys. You got to get the nod to get to that level. It's like Bill Cosby. What was his net worth? $500 million at one time. I mean, somebody avoided the nod, and he hacked somebody off, or they wouldn't be taking him down like this, guys. It's so important that you understand that all of these people at this level have been given the nod by somebody up. I could tell you gosh, I got to be so careful what I say. I know of a TV evangelist who was given the nod by a known Satanist in Hollywood to make him where he is. Now, the evangelist at this point is fallen great because his lifestyle, they found out about him. But he was given the nod by this Satan group. And this one guy, if I told you Satanist, he'd flip out. He was on a talk show and on a game show for years and years and years, hardcore Luciferian. And the thing about it is that he gave the evangelist the nod when he heard him speak on time and brought him up to where he was. Guys, this is what happens when you get that nod. You get to go up. They don't like giving nod to people that are telling the truth. Think through this. The alternative media. Guys, love you guys. I'll talk to you guys. Austin, I'm sorry I kept going too long. Appreciate you guys. Going close, Austin.
I got it, bud. We appreciate it, guys. If you need anything, healthmasters.com, deletion there sale right now on the website. Lots of other specials, promos. We're going to get ready for the Hagen Show. We'll see you guys tonight. After that, you have a blessed, awesome weekend, and we'll be back on the show Monday as always. Talk to you guys later.
Oxygen. It's nature's oldest therapy and plays an essential role in destroying viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, and fungus, and keeping the human body healthy and strong. Now, you can give your body and your immune system a mega boost of disease-fighting oxygen with all-natural Oxy-C. With so many people now leading a sedentary indoor lifestyle, most are in a chronic state of oxygen deprivation, which sets up a perfect environment for disease, general fatigue, and a host of other symptoms. Oxy-C is yours in simple, convenient capsules. Nothing to mix, nothing to hassle with. Take it with juice or water anytime. Feel a cold or flu approaching? Have no energy or spark anymore? Try all-natural Oxy-C and prepare to be amazed. Oxy-C is only available from New Earth Health Solutions at rense.com. Look for the New Earth banner at rense.com.
Are you prepared for the future? Do you know how to navigate past the upcoming dangers before it's too late and seize budding opportunities before others do? Forecasting worldwide since 1980, Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal, provides timely and accurate trend forecasts that have earned him the reputation as the most trusted name in trends. The proof is in the hundreds of accurate forecasts Celente has made over the past 30 years. The 1987 stock market crash, the clean food trend, the dot-com bust. The Trends Journal alerts subscribers to early, subtle signs of crucial trends that will shape our future. It allows readers to anticipate change, recognize the implications, and take proactive strategies. Put your money where your mind is with Gerald Celente's brilliant and indispensable Trends Journal. Go to trendsjournal.com or call 845-331-3500. That's 845-331-3500.
Known worldwide as the most consistently fascinating, informative, and unique program on radio, the Jeff Rense program can be yours to listen to anytime, anywhere, whenever you want to hear it. For pennies a day, our subscribers can download any of Jeff's thousands of programs featuring a treasury of newsmakers, researchers, eyewitnesses, and incredible subjects, all in MP3 commercial-free, crystal-clear 56-bit digital sound, and take these often unforgettable programs with them wherever they go. As a subscriber, you can also listen live at airtime, online, anywhere in the world, or browse through our archives of over 6,000 hours of legendary broadcasts. Subscribe now by taking the link at the top of rense.com and enrich your mind with the most unique panorama of vital information and the best independent, honest journalism in radio. Look for the Subscribe Now link on rense.com and give yourself the knowledge you need for these unprecedented times.
If you've been listening to this program for any length of time, you'll know that Fukushima, the greatest calamity in history, has now, as I've been warning since 3/11, killed off virtually the whole North Pacific Ocean and especially up and down the entire West Coast. The radiation is migrating inland and is moving across the entire country. There's only one proven defender to radiation exposure, the brilliant Chernobyl-proven discovery of Dr. Michael Kiriak, which combines the 4 most potent and powerful algae on the planet, imported to the U.S. and known as bio-superfood. I've taken bio-superfood every day for several years now and want you to do the same for your sake and the health and safety of your family and loved ones. Take the banner at the top of rense.com and prepare to learn how to save your life.
Scientists in England have succeeded in stabilizing the time-honored substance in garlic that destroys harmful bacteria, viruses, molds, yeast, and fungus. This all-natural microbe killer is called Allicin C, and it's now available to you in 100% vegetarian capsules only on the New Earth page at rense.com. This powerful broad-spectrum antimicrobial agent is harmless to friendly bacteria and has been concentrated to equal an astonishing 35 cloves of garlic in each vegetarian capsule. Think about it. The antibacterial, antiviral strength of 35 odorless cloves of garlic in just one capsule. Allicin C is so effective it even destroys superbug MRSA in test after test. Allicin C is truly an incredible advance in natural medicine, and with the threats of bacterial and viral diseases and pandemics growing, no home should be without it. Learn more and order Allicin C on the New Earth page at rense.com.
Idea of 100% organic food storage products. It's called Numana.com. In addition to the best in food storage, they even have an incredible high-tech little wood stove that can boil your water or heat your food 24/7, rain or shine. I urge you to do your own research and taste the difference in Numana's highest quality foods. Better yet, order a starter pack for only $19.95 and prepare to be amazed. Numana's food products have a 25-plus year shelf life. They are GMO-free, contain no preservatives, and are completely American-made. Visit Numana.com and see what you've been missing. That's Numana, Numanna.com, Numana.com.
The views and opinions expressed by the guests, callers, and hosts on this and all Rense Radio Network programs do not necessarily reflect or agree with those of the network, its commercial sponsors, its radio station affiliates, or Internet broadcast platforms. In these controversial times, we believe the First Amendment and freedom of the press are absolutely essential to the survival of our nation. Thank you. And now, enjoy the program.
happy Friday, and welcome back. 3 hours of radio coming your way tonight. Conversational radio. We try to talk about a lot of things. And first up tonight, Dean Henderson, one of the premier political analysts, geopolitical military analysts, working on the internet anywhere. He's on Press TV, he's been on RT, he's been all over the place. Hello, Dean. Welcome back.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my friend. Here's what I want to start with tonight. I'm an inveterate headline scanner. I don't read the stories honestly. If a writer is competent, he can put a lot in a headline, and that's what I always try to do at Rense for everybody. But Syria, Trump. Remember when he said about 6 weeks ago, "I'm going to bring our boys and girls home. We're all coming home. I'm going to bring them all out of there." What happened, Donald? The chaos that is the White House and is the presidency shows no sign of diminishing. It's getting crazier. This is nuts. White House insists Trump still planning to pull the U.S. out of Syria. Another one. Trump's push for immediate withdrawal of troops from Syria. So he did a 180. He was going to pull them out, and then he isn't. At the meeting, Mr. Trump's military advisor told him they had drawn up plans to pull American troops out of Syria immediately. But that's not on the table anymore, apparently. Somebody is whispering in Trump's ear, or more directly controlling him. He's not his own man. As Trump seeks way out of Syria, new attack pulls him back in. Blah, 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 blah. All right, well, all this leads up to today's story with Mad Dog. He says now, we're not leaving. U.S. and its allies are going to re-energize their military campaign in Syria, says the... I'll read just a little bit of this. The United States is going to re-energize a multilateral military campaign that it has been in Syria, says U.S. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, contrasting his boss, President Donald Trump's plan to pull out our troops from Syria. We are not withdrawing, said Mattis. So, Dean, who the hell